Two German shepherds was crying from a sack. Left in the cemetery, what baby did next left everyone in tears. What happened that foggy October evening would change one family's life forever, and the choice a 5-year-old boy made would leave an entire town in tears. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The autumn mist rolled through Willowbrook Cemetery like ghostly fingers reaching between the weathered headstones. Sarah Miller pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders as she walked beside her husband David, their 5-year-old son Oliver between them. His small hand felt warm in hers, despite the evening chill. They had come to visit Grandma Rose's grave, as they did every Sunday evening, bringing fresh flowers to replace the wilted ones from the previous week. Oliver carried a small bouquet of yellow roses, his grandmother's favorite, clutching them carefully against his chest. The cemetery was empty at this hour, most visitors having left before the fog rolled in from the nearby woods. The only sounds were their footsteps on the gravel path, and the distant cawing of crows settling in for the night. "Can we stay a little longer today, Mom?" Oliver asked, his voice soft in the hushed atmosphere of the cemetery. "I want to tell Grandma about my new teacher." Sarah glanced at David, who checked his watch. "Just a few more minutes, buddy," David said, ruffling his son's dark hair. "It's getting dark, and the fog is getting thicker." They reached Rose's grave, a simple granite headstone with her name and the dates that marked her time on Earth. Oliver knelt down, carefully placing the roses in the metal vase attached to the stone. He began talking in that earnest way children do, telling his grandmother about Mrs. Patterson and how she had praised his drawing of a butterfly. Sarah felt her eyes mist as she watched her son. He had been especially close to Rose, and her passing 6 months ago had hit him hard. These weekly visits seemed to help him process his grief, though sometimes Sarah wondered if they were holding him back from moving forward. A sound cut through the fog, faint but distinct. Sarah froze, her hand instinctively reaching for Oliver's shoulder. It sounded like crying, but not human crying. It was higher-pitched, desperate, almost like, "Mom, do you hear that?" Oliver stood up, his head tilted as he listened intently. David stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of his family. "Probably just a cat," he said, though his voice carried a note of uncertainty. The sound came again, clearer this time. It was definitely an animal in distress, and it seemed to be coming from behind the old mausoleum about 50 yards away. The structure had been there since the cemetery opened in the 1800s, its stone walls covered in ivy and moss. Oliver pulled away from his mother's grasp before she could stop him. "Something needs help," he said, already moving toward the sound. "Oliver, wait!" Sarah called, but her son was already jogging through the fog. David and Sarah hurried after him, their parental instincts overriding their caution. They found Oliver standing beside the mausoleum, staring at something on the ground. As Sarah got closer, she saw what had captured his attention. A large burlap sack, the kind used for grain or potatoes, was moving slightly. The crying sound was coming from inside it. "Stay back, Oliver," David warned, moving past his son to investigate. He approached the sack carefully, aware that a trapped animal could be dangerous. The top of the sack was tied with rough rope, and he could see movement inside, accompanied by pitiful whimpering. Sarah pulled Oliver against her, ready to retreat if necessary. David found a sharp rock and began sawing at the rope. It took several minutes, but finally the rope gave way. He carefully opened the top of the sack and gasped. Inside were 2 German shepherd puppies, probably no more than 8 weeks old. They were tied together with twine around their necks, so tight it had rubbed the fur away. One puppy, darker in color, had a gash on its hind leg that was bleeding. The other, slightly lighter with distinctive markings on its face, was crying continuously, its eyes barely open. "Oh my God," Sarah breathed, her maternal instincts immediately activated. "Who would do such a thing?" Oliver broke free from his mother's hold and knelt beside the sack. Without hesitation, he reached in and gently touched the crying puppy. Instantly, miraculously, both puppies stopped crying. They turned their heads toward the boy, their eyes focusing on him, with an intensity that seemed impossible for puppies so young and weak. "We have to help them," Oliver said, his voice carrying a determination that Sarah had never heard before. "They're hurt and scared." David was already pulling out his pocket knife to cut the twine binding the puppies together. "Careful, son," They might bite if they're scared, but the puppies made no move to bite. Instead, they seemed to lean into Oliver's touch, as if drawing strength from his small hands. The darker one with the injured leg managed a weak tail wag. "Don't touch them, dogs!" The voice came from behind them, causing all three to jump. Harold Moss, the cemetery's caretaker, stood there with his rake, his weathered face creased with concern. He was an old man, had been tending the cemetery for as long as anyone could remember, and lived in a small cottage on the grounds. "Harold, someone left these puppies here to die," Sarah said, gesturing to the sack. "We can't just leave them." Harold's face went pale when he saw the puppies. He took a step back, crossing himself. "Those ain't no ordinary dogs," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I seen them before. They belong to Walter Grimm." David looked up from where he was carefully freeing the puppies. "Walter Grimm? Doesn't he live on the old farm past the woods?" "Lived," Harold corrected, his eyes never leaving the puppies. "Walter died exactly 1 year ago today. Found him right here in this cemetery, stone cold dead by his wife's grave. These were his dog's pups. The mother went mad after he died, had to be put down. Someone said the puppies were cursed, that they carry Walter's restless spirit." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening fog. "That's just superstition, Harold." "Maybe," Harold said, backing away further. "But I'm telling you, leave them dogs be. Nothing good comes from disturbing the dead's belongings." Oliver stood up, surprising everyone with the firmness in his voice. "They're not dead belongings. They're alive, and they need help." He looked at his parents with eyes that seemed older than his 5 years. "Please, Mom, Dad, we can't leave them here." David finished cutting the twine and gently lifted the injured puppy. It weighed almost nothing, its ribs visible through its matted fur. "Sarah, we can't leave them. Whatever the story is, these are living creatures that need help." Sarah looked at her son's pleading face, then at the puppies who seemed to be watching Oliver with an almost human understanding. Against her better judgment, she nodded. "All right, but we're taking them straight to the vet." Harold shook his head ominously. "Mark my words, you'll regret this. Walter Grimm didn't die natural. Some say he was murdered for what he knew, what he had hidden. Those dogs know things they shouldn't. You bring them into your home, you bring his troubles with you." David carefully placed both puppies in the sack, this time leaving it open so they could breathe freely. "We'll take our chances, Harold. No animal deserves to die like this." As they walked back through the cemetery, Oliver stayed close to David, who carried the sack. The boy kept talking softly to the puppies, telling them they were safe now. Sarah noticed that every time Oliver spoke, the puppies' ears perked up, as if they understood every word. The fog had grown thicker, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. As they reached their car, Sarah noticed several people on the street had stopped to stare. Mrs. Henderson from 2 blocks over actually crossed herself and hurried away when she saw what David was carrying. "Why is everyone acting so strange?" Sarah asked as they got into the car. David shrugged, but she could see the concern in his eyes. "Small-town superstitions. You know how people are." The drive to the emergency veterinary clinic took 20 minutes. Oliver sat in the back seat with the sack on his lap, continuing his soft monologue to the puppies. Sarah kept glancing back, amazed at how calm the injured animals were. Most hurt animals would be panicking, but these two seemed to trust Oliver completely. "I'm going to call you Shadow," Oliver said to the darker puppy with the injured leg. "And you're Storm," he told the lighter one with the distinctive markings. "Is that okay?" Both puppies made soft whining sounds that almost sounded like agreement. David caught Sarah's eye in the rearview mirror. They were both thinking the same thing. How did Oliver come up with those names so quickly? And why did they seem so perfect? The veterinary clinic was mostly empty at this hour. Dr. Mitchell, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gentle hands, took them back immediately when she saw the condition of the puppies. "My God," she said as she examined them. "These puppies are severely malnourished and dehydrated. This one," she indicated Shadow, "has an infected wound on his leg." "How long were they in that sack?" "We don't know," Sarah said. "We found them in the cemetery about 30 minutes ago." Dr. Mitchell's hands paused for just a moment. "The cemetery? Willowbrook Cemetery?" David nodded. "Yes, behind the old mausoleum." "Why?" The vet's expression changed, becoming guarded. "No reason, just... Unusual. She continued her examination, but Sarah noticed her hands were slightly less steady than before. As Dr. Mitchell cleaned Shadow's wound, she found something that made her frown. "There are markings under their fur," she said, parting the hair on Storm's shoulder. "They look like tattoos? But that's impossible on puppies this young." Sarah and David leaned in to look. There were indeed markings, faint but visible, that looked like symbols or possibly letters in a language none of them recognized. "Could they be birthmarks?" David suggested. "I've never seen birthmarks like these, Doctor," Mitchell said. She took photos with her phone. "I'd like to check for microchips, if that's okay." Sarah nodded, holding Oliver's hand as he watched the procedures with intense focus. The scanner beeped when Dr. Mitchell ran it over Shadow's shoulder blade. "They're chipped," she said, surprised. "Both of them. Let me check the database." She typed the chip numbers into her computer. After a moment, her face went white. "This can't be right." "What is it?" Sarah asked, feeling dread creep up her spine. "According to this, these puppies are registered to Walter Grimm. But the registration date is... It's from 3 years ago. That's impossible. These puppies are 8 weeks old at most." David leaned over to look at the screen. "Could it be an error in the system?" Dr. Mitchell shook her head slowly. "The system doesn't make mistakes like this. And there's more. Walter Grimm's file shows he's deceased, died exactly 1 year ago today. But there's a note here." She squinted at the screen. "It says the dogs are part of something called the Guardian Protocol." "I've never heard of that." Oliver, who had been quiet during this exchange, suddenly spoke up. "They were waiting for me." All 3 adults turned to look at the boy. He was staring at the puppies with that same intense focus, and they were staring back. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Sarah asked gently. "In my dream last night," Oliver said, his voice distant, as if remembering something from long ago. "I saw them. They were in a dark place, crying. A man with white hair was there. He told them to wait for me, that I would come." Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Oliver, you never mentioned this dream." The boy shrugged. "I forgot until now, but it was them, Shadow and Storm. The man called them by those names." Dr. Mitchell cleared her throat. "I think we should focus on medical treatment for now. These puppies need intravenous fluids, antibiotics for the infection, and proper nutrition. They'll need to stay here for at least—" "No!" Oliver's voice was sharp, almost panicked. "They can't stay here. They have to come home with us." "Oliver," David said firmly, "the doctor knows best. They need medical care." But Oliver was shaking his head frantically. "Something bad will happen if they stay here. I know it. I can feel it." Tears were streaming down his face now. "Please, Dad. Please." The puppies began whimpering, picking up on Oliver's distress. Storm tried to crawl toward the boy despite his weakness, and Shadow's eyes never left Oliver's face. Dr. Mitchell watched this interaction with a mix of professional interest and something else. Fear? I could show you how to administer the medications at home," she said slowly. "If you're willing to bring them in daily for checkups." Sarah wanted to protest. This was insane. They had come to place flowers on a grave and were now considering taking home 2 mysterious puppies that everyone seemed afraid of. But looking at Oliver's tear-stained face and the way the puppies responded to him, she found herself nodding. "We'll take them home," she said, surprising herself. "Show us what we need to do." Dr. Mitchell prepared a care package with medications, special puppy formula, syringes for feeding, and detailed instructions. As she worked, she kept glancing at the puppies and Oliver, her expression troubled. "Can I give you some advice?" she said quietly to Sarah, while David helped Oliver gently pet the puppies. "Be careful. I've lived in this town my whole life, and Walter Grimm was unusual. He knew things, had connections that nobody understood. If these really are connected to him somehow." "You're scaring me," Sarah said bluntly. Dr. Mitchell met her eyes. "Good. You should be a little scared. Just watch your son. The bond he has with these animals isn't normal. I've been a vet for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like it." They left the clinic with the puppies wrapped in warm blankets, medications in a bag, and more questions than answers. The fog had lifted somewhat, but the night had grown darker. As they drove home, Sarah noticed Oliver whispering to the puppies again, and she could swear she heard him say, "Don't worry, I won't let him find you." "Who won't find them, Oliver?" she asked. Oliver looked up, his eyes wide as if he hadn't realized he'd spoken aloud. "I don't know," he said, but Sarah could tell he was lying. Her 5-year-old son was lying to her, and that scared her more than all the strange events of the evening combined. Their house was a modest 2-story colonial on a quiet street. As they pulled into the driveway, Sarah noticed their neighbor, Mr. Peterson, standing on his porch despite the late hour. When he saw them get out of the car with the puppies, he immediately went inside and shut his door. The sound of multiple locks clicking into place was audible in the quiet night. "What is wrong with everyone?" David muttered as they went inside. They set up a comfortable area in the laundry room for the puppies, using old towels and blankets to make a soft bed. Oliver insisted on staying with them while Sarah prepared the formula doctor Mitchell had provided. As she warmed the formula in the kitchen, Sarah could hear Oliver talking to the puppies. His voice was different somehow, older, more confident. She crept closer to listen. "I know you're scared," he was saying, "but you're safe now. He won't find you here. The bad man can't hurt you anymore." Sarah's hands shook as she poured the formula into the feeding syringes. What bad man? How did Oliver know about any bad man? She brought the formula to the laundry room, where David was helping Oliver support Shadow, while the puppy weakly attempted to drink. Storm was slightly stronger, able to lap from a shallow dish with minimal help. "They're doing better already," David said with relief. "Look, Shadow's tail is wagging a little." It was true. Despite his injuries and weakness, Shadow's tail was making small movements whenever Oliver spoke to him. Storm had managed to drink most of his formula and was now attempting to crawl closer to Oliver. "Can I sleep here tonight?" Oliver asked. "They're scared to be alone." "Absolutely not," Sarah said automatically. "You need to sleep in your bed." But then both puppies started crying, a heartbreaking sound that seemed to echo with loss and fear. They only stopped when Oliver placed his hands on them. "Please, Mom," Oliver said, and there was something in his voice that made Sarah's refusal die in her throat. "Just tonight. They need me." David set up Oliver's sleeping bag on the laundry room floor, adding extra pillows to make it comfortable. They positioned the puppy's bed right next to the sleeping bag, close enough for Oliver to reach out and touch them. "We'll leave the door open," Sarah said. "If you need anything, just call." As they prepared for bed themselves, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed. The house felt different somehow, as if the puppies had brought something with them besides their physical presence. "David," she said as they lay in bed, "what have we gotten ourselves into?" Her husband was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. But did you see Oliver's face? He hasn't been that animated, that determined about anything since Mom died. Maybe these puppies are exactly what he needs. Or maybe," Sarah said quietly, "they needed him." She had just started to drift off to sleep when she heard it. Oliver's voice, but different. He was speaking in his sleep, but the words were clear and disturbing. "The man with the knife is coming. Shadow knows where it's hidden. Storm can smell his fear. But the boy is the key. Walter said the boy would come." Sarah sat up, her heart pounding. She looked at David, but he was fast asleep. She got up and crept to the laundry room. Oliver was asleep in his sleeping bag, one hand resting on each puppy. All three were breathing in unison, their chests rising and falling together as if they were one being. As she watched, Storm opened one eye and looked directly at her. In that gaze was an intelligence that no 8-week-old puppy should possess. The puppy held her gaze for a long moment, then slowly closed his eye and went back to sleep. Sarah returned to bed, but sleep wouldn't come. She lay awake thinking about Harold's warning, about Doctor, Mitchell's fear, about the neighbors' strange reactions. What did everyone know that she didn't? And more importantly, what did Oliver know? The next morning brought new mysteries. Sarah woke to find Oliver already up, sitting in the kitchen with both puppies on his lap. They looked markedly better than they had the night before. Shadow's wound seemed to be healing at an impossible rate, and both puppies were alert and responsive. "They're hungry," Oliver announced, "but not for formula. They want real food." "Oliver, they're too young for solid food," Sarah said, though looking at them, they seemed bigger than they had last night. Was that possible? "They told me they're ready," Oliver said matter-of-factly. Puppies can't talk, sweetheart, Sarah said gently. Oliver looked at her with those serious eyes. These ones can. Not with words, but I understand them. David came down, stopping short when he saw the puppies. Is it just me, or do they look bigger? Sarah had been thinking the same thing, but hadn't wanted to voice it. The puppies definitely looked larger, their features more defined. Shadow's wound, which had been deep and infected yesterday, now looked like it had been healing for days. We should take them back to Doctor. Mitchell, Sarah said. No! Oliver's response was immediate and forceful. She'll want to keep them for tests. They don't like tests. How do you know that? David asked, sitting down across from his son. Oliver was quiet for a moment, stroking Storm's head. I had another dream. The white-haired man, Walter, he showed me things. Bad people hurt Shadow and Storm's parents. They did tests, painful tests. That's why Walter hid them. Sarah exchanged a worried look with David. These dreams were too specific, too detailed to be just a child's imagination. The doorbell rang, making them all jump. The puppies immediately started growling, a sound too deep and menacing to come from such young animals. David went to answer it, returning with a manila envelope. It was just sitting on the porch, he said. No one was there. The envelope had no address, just one word written in shaky handwriting. Return. Inside was a single piece of paper with a message. The dogs belong to us. You have 48 hours to return them to the cemetery where you found them. This is your only warning. Sarah's hands shook as she read it. We need to call the police. No, Oliver said firmly. The police can't help. Some of them are with the bad people. Oliver, how could you possibly know that? David demanded. The boy looked frustrated as if trying to explain something obvious. Shadow saw them at Walter's house after he died. Men in police uniforms, but they weren't really police. They were looking for something. Looking for what? Sarah asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. The book, Oliver said simply. Walter's book, with all the names and places. He hid it before he died. Only Shadow knows where. Storm barked once, as if confirming Oliver's words. Shadow remained quiet but watchful, his eyes tracking every movement in the room. The phone rang. Sarah answered it, her voice cautious. Hello? Mrs. Miller? It was Dr. Mitchell. I need to speak with you about the puppies. Can you come to the clinic? Without them, and without Oliver. Why? What's wrong? I can't explain over the phone. Please, it's important. And Mrs. Miller? Be careful. I think you're all in danger. Sarah hung up, her mind racing. She looked at her family, David reading the threatening note again. Oliver calmly feeding the puppies small pieces of chicken from his breakfast. The puppies themselves watching everything with those unnaturally intelligent eyes. I need to go to the clinic, she said. Dr. Mitchell wants to talk to me. I'll come with you, David said immediately. No, she said alone. You stay with Oliver and the puppies. She grabbed her keys and purse. Lock the doors after I leave. Don't let anyone in. As she drove to the clinic, Sarah noticed a dark sedan following her. It stayed exactly 3 cars behind, turning when she turned. Her heart pounded as she pulled into the clinic parking lot. The sedan drove past without slowing, but she saw the driver's face and profile, a hard-looking man with a scar across his cheek. Dr. Mitchell was waiting for her in an empty examination room. She looked haggard, as if she hadn't slept. Thank you for coming, she said, locking the door behind them. I did some research last night. The Guardian protocol that was mentioned in the chip registry, it's real, but it's not what you think. She pulled out a folder full of printed articles and photos. Walter Grimm wasn't just some old farmer. He was a whistleblower. He worked for a company called Nexus Pharmaceuticals. They were doing illegal experiments on animals, specifically dogs. They were trying to enhance their intelligence, their physical capabilities. Sarah stared at the documents, her mind struggling to process this information. You're saying Shadow and Storm are experiments? No, Dr. Mitchell said. Their parents were. According to what I found, Walter rescued 2 adult German shepherds from the facility before he quit, a mated pair. The company wanted them back, but Walter disappeared with them. He must have bred them, and Shadow and Storm are their offspring. But that doesn't explain the rapid healing, the growth, the intelligence, Sarah said. Dr. Mitchell pulled out another paper. The experiments were partially successful. The enhanced traits are genetic, passed down to offspring. But there's more. The company wasn't just doing this for scientific curiosity. They were selling these enhanced dogs to very dangerous people, criminal organizations, private military companies. Walter had evidence of all of it. The book Oliver mentioned? Sarah whispered. What book? Dr. Mitchell asked sharply. Sarah explained what Oliver had said about Walter's book with names and places. Dr. Mitchell's face went pale. If that's true, if Walter really had that kind of evidence, then Nexus and everyone involved would do anything to get it back. And if they think the dogs know where it is, they'll come for them, Sarah finished. You need to leave town, Doctor, Mitchell said urgently. Take your family and the dogs and go somewhere safe. How do you know all this? Sarah asked suddenly. How did you find this information so quickly? Dr. Mitchell was quiet for a moment. Because my brother worked at Nexus. He tried to warn me about what they were doing, but he died in a car accident 2 days later. When I saw those markings on the puppies, I recognized them. They're identification codes used in the Nexus program. Sarah's phone buzzed, a text from David. Come home now. Something's happening with Oliver. She ran from the clinic, the dark sedan nowhere in sight this time. When she burst through her front door, she found David in the living room, staring at Oliver in amazement. Oliver was sitting on the floor with both puppies. His eyes were closed, but he was speaking in a voice that wasn't quite his own. It was deeper, older, with a slight accent. Sarah's here now, Oliver said without opening his eyes. Good. You all need to hear this. Oliver, Sarah said tentatively. The boy's eyes opened, but they seemed to be looking at something far away. Not Oliver. Well, yes, Oliver, but also more. Walter left part of himself in shadow and storm. Not his soul, that's nonsense, but his knowledge, his memories. The dogs carry them, and Oliver can access them. David grabbed Sarah's hand. This is impossible. So is enhanced intelligence in dogs, but here we are, Oliver/not Oliver said. Listen carefully. There isn't much time. Nexus has sent a team. They'll be here tonight. They don't just want the dogs. They want Oliver now too. They've realized what he is. What is he? Sarah demanded, her maternal instincts overriding her fear. A bridge, Oliver said. Some humans have the ability to connect with enhanced animals on a deeper level. It's rare, maybe 1 in a million. Oliver is one of them. With him, Nexus could control an entire army of enhanced animals. We won't let them take him, David said firmly. No, you won't, Oliver agreed, because you're going to follow Walter's instructions exactly. In the basement, behind the water heater, there's a loose brick. Behind it is a flash drive with all the evidence against Nexus. But that's not all. There's also information about other children like Oliver, other enhanced animals in hiding. It's a network of people fighting against Nexus. Sarah felt like she was in a nightmare. Her 5-year-old son was channeling a dead man's memories through genetically enhanced puppies, and apparently, they were about to be attacked by an evil pharmaceutical company. How do we know we can trust you? She asked. Oliver's expression softened, becoming more recognizably her son. Because, Mom, Walter loved these puppies like I do. He died protecting them, and now I have to protect them too. It's why they came to us, not by accident, but because Walter somehow knew I would be at the cemetery. He sent them to find me. Shadow barked once, and Storm stood up, his ears perked toward the window. Oliver's expression changed to one of urgency. They're coming. 3 cars, 10 minutes out. Get the flash drive now. David ran to the basement while Sarah grabbed their emergency bags. They always kept them packed with clothes and supplies, a habit from living in an area prone to natural disasters. When David returned with the flash drive, Oliver was standing with the puppies at his feet. He looked older somehow, more determined. We can't run forever, Sarah said. We won't have to, Oliver said. Walter had friends. Good people who've been fighting Nexus for years. There's a safe house an hour north. The address is on the flash drive, but first, we need to make them think we're going somewhere else. With Oliver directing them, or was it Walter? Sarah couldn't tell anymore. They executed a plan that seemed far too sophisticated for a 5-year-old to conceive. They left obvious signs of heading west toward the interstate, even going so far as to have David drive their car in that direction, while Sarah and Oliver snuck out the back with the puppies in a neighbor's borrowed vehicle. As they drove north on back roads, Oliver held both puppies in his lap. They were definitely bigger now, probably twice the size they had been yesterday. Shadow's wound was completely healed, leaving only a faint scar. "Oliver," Sarah said softly, "are you okay? This must be so confusing for you." Her son looked at her in the rearview mirror, and for a moment, he was just her little boy again, scared and overwhelmed. "It's weird, Mom. I know things I shouldn't know. I can feel what Shadow and Storm feel, and sometimes I hear Walter talking to me, but not with words. It's like he left instructions in the puppies and I can read them." "Are you scared?" Oliver thought about it. "No, because I know we're doing the right thing. These people hurt animals, hurt families. Walter tried to stop them, and now we have to finish what he started." They reached the safe house just as the sun was setting. It was a farmhouse, isolated but well-maintained. A woman was waiting on the porch, elderly but sharp-eyed, with steel-gray hair and a rifle leaning against her chair. "You must be Oliver," she said, ignoring Sarah entirely. "Walter told me you'd come." "Walter's been dead for a year," Sarah said. The woman smiled. "Yes, but he knew things. Saw patterns others couldn't. He knew someone special would find his puppies, someone who could do what needed to be done." She looked at Shadow and Storm, who were now sitting alertly beside Oliver. "My, they've grown fast. The enhancement is stronger in this generation." "Who are you?" Sarah asked. "Margaret Foster. I run a sanctuary for enhanced animals that have been rescued from Nexus and similar organizations. Walter was one of our best operatives before his cover was blown." "Operatives?" David had just arrived, having successfully led the Nexus team on a wild goose chase. "Like spies?" "Something like that," Margaret said. "Come inside. We have a lot to discuss and not much time. Nexus won't be fooled for long." As they entered the farmhouse, Sarah heard a sound that made her stop. It was barking, but not normal barking. It was too synchronized, too purposeful. Through a window, she saw a field where at least a dozen dogs of various breeds were sitting in perfect formation, all looking toward the house. "Are they all," she began. "Enhanced?" "Yes," Margaret confirmed, "and they've been waiting for Oliver. You see, your son isn't just a bridge. He's potentially the most powerful animal communicator we've ever encountered. With training, he could command not just one or two enhanced animals, but dozens, maybe hundreds." Oliver stepped onto the back porch, and every dog in the field stood at attention. Shadow and Storm flanked him, already protective of their small charge. The boy raised his hand, and the dogs sat in perfect unison. "How does he know how to do that?" David asked in amazement. "He doesn't," Margaret said. "That's pure instinct. Imagine what he could do with proper training." Sarah felt a mix of pride and terror. Her little boy, her Oliver, was something extraordinary, but with that came danger she had never imagined. That night, as they settled into rooms Margaret had prepared, Sarah tucked Oliver into bed with Shadow and Storm curled up beside him. The puppies were now the size of 4-month-old dogs, their growth rate continuing to accelerate. "Mom," Oliver said sleepily, "Walter says thank you." "For what?" "For believing. For not being too scared to help. He says his wife would have liked you." Sarah kissed his forehead, tears in her eyes. "Sleep now, baby. We're safe here." But as she left his room, she heard him whisper to the puppies, "They'll find us. The bad men always do. But this time, we'll be ready." Looking back at her son, surrounded by his guardian puppies, Sarah realized their old life was over. They were part of something bigger now, something dangerous but important. And Oliver, her sweet, quiet Oliver, was at the center of it all. The next morning brought revelations that shook Sarah's understanding of everything she thought she knew. Margaret gathered them in her study, a room lined with files, photos, and maps marked with red pins. "Nexus Pharmaceuticals is just one tentacle of a larger organization," Margaret explained, pulling down a chart that looked like a corporate family tree. "They call themselves the Dominion Group. They've been experimenting with genetic enhancement for decades, not just on animals, but humans too." She pointed to a photo of a distinguished-looking man in a suit. "This is Marcus Thorne, head of Dominion. He believes that enhanced beings, animal and human, are the next step in evolution. But he wants to control that evolution, to create a world where enhanced beings serve the wealthy and powerful." "That's insane," David said. "Is it?" Margaret asked. "Look at Oliver. Look at what he can do with no training. Imagine an army of enhanced soldiers paired with enhanced animals, all under the control of someone like Thorn." Oliver, who had been quietly playing with Shadow and Storm, looked up. "He won't win," he said with that eerie certainty that was becoming familiar. Walter saw it. In dreams, in visions, the enhanced beings will choose their own path. Margaret studied the boy intently. The connection is stronger than Walter predicted. "Oliver, what else do you see?" Oliver closed his eyes, his hands resting on the puppies' heads. "A man with a scar on his face. He's coming here, but not today, tomorrow night. He brings others, but also doubt. He's not sure about what he's doing anymore." Sarah remembered the scarred man who had followed her to the clinic. "I saw him yesterday." Margaret nodded grimly. "Victor Crane, Nexus's top retrieval specialist. If he's having doubts, we might be able to turn him. He's seen what Dominion does to the animals they recapture." She pulled out a tablet and showed them video footage that made Sarah cover Oliver's eyes, though he gently pushed her hand away. "I need to see," he said. "Shadow and Storm's parents went through this." The footage showed rows of cages containing dogs in various states of distress. Some had visible surgical scars, others exhibited behaviors that were distinctly unnatural, moving in perfect synchronization, responding to commands given through speakers in languages they shouldn't understand. "This is what awaits Shadow and Storm if Nexus gets them back," Margaret said. "And Oliver, they would do worse to him. Human enhancement is illegal, but Dominion has facilities in countries where laws don't apply." "Then we fight," David said, surprising Sarah with his vehemence. "We can't let them take our son or these puppies." Margaret smiled. "Good. Because we're going to need fighters. The network Walter was part of, we're planning something big. We have enough evidence to expose Dominion, but we need to get it to the right people, people who can't be bought or threatened." She pulled out the flash drive David had retrieved from their basement. "This contains part of what we need." But Walter hid the most damaging evidence somewhere else, and according to his notes, only Shadow knows where. All eyes turned to the darker puppy, who was now almost the size of a young adult dog despite being only days in their care. Shadow met their gazes steadily, then walked to Oliver and placed his paw on the boy's knee. Oliver's eyes went distant again. The old oak tree. Cemetery. Grandmother's grave. Under the roots, wrapped in oilcloth. Sarah gasped. "That's right by Mom's grave. We were there when we found them." "Walter knew you visited regularly," Margaret said. "He planned this more carefully than we realized." But before they could make plans to retrieve the hidden evidence, Storm began barking urgently. He ran to the window, his hackles raised. In the distance, they could see dust clouds from approaching vehicles. "That's not possible," Margaret said, checking her security monitors. "They're a day early." "Oliver, you said tomorrow night." Oliver looked confused and frightened for the first time. "I saw wrong." But Walter's memories. "Unless," Margaret said, her face going pale, "they wanted us to think we had more time. Victor Crane is smarter than we gave him credit for." The vehicle stopped at the gate to Margaret's property, still a quarter-mile from the house. Through binoculars, Margaret counted 6 SUVs, all black with tinted windows. But something was off. They weren't advancing. "Why aren't they coming?" David asked, peering through the window. Margaret adjusted her binoculars. "They're waiting for something, or someone." Oliver suddenly gasped, his connection with the puppies flaring to life. "It's a test. The scarred man, Victor, he wants to see what we'll do. He's not here to capture us, not yet. He's studying us." As if responding to Oliver's words, a single figure emerged from the lead vehicle. Even from a distance, they could see the scar across his face. Victor Crane walked to the gate and simply stood there, hands visible and empty. "He wants to talk," Margaret said, surprised. "This isn't standard Nexus protocol." "It's a trap," Sarah said immediately. "It has to be." But Oliver was already moving toward the door, Shadow and Storm flanking him. "No, Mom." He's confused. I can feel it through Shadow. He knew their parents. He was there when Walter rescued them. Margaret grabbed her rifle. "If we're doing this, we do it smart. David, take Oliver and the puppies to the safe room. Sarah, you're with me." But Oliver shook his head firmly. "He won't talk to you. Only to me." Shadow knows him, remembers his scent. He wasn't always bad. The certainty in Oliver's voice was unsettling. Sarah wanted to forbid it, to lock her son away from all this danger, but she was beginning to understand that Oliver was no ordinary child anymore. Whatever connection he had with the enhanced animals had changed him, aged him in ways that had nothing to do with physical growth. "I'm going with him," Sarah said. "Non-negotiable." Margaret nodded. "David, watch from the upstairs window with the hunting rifle, if anything goes wrong." "I know," David said grimly. They walked toward the gate, Oliver between Sarah and Margaret, the puppies alert but not aggressive. As they got closer, Sarah could see Victor Crane more clearly. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with tired eyes that didn't match his dangerous reputation. "That's close enough," Margaret called when they were 20 feet from the gate. Victor nodded, his eyes fixed on Oliver and the puppies. "They've grown fast," he said, his voice carrying a slight accent Sarah couldn't place. "Their parents did the same thing, reached full size in 2 weeks. What do you want?" Margaret demanded. "To talk to the boy," Victor said simply. "Alone." "Absolutely not," Sarah said. But Victor wasn't looking at her. He was looking at Shadow, and the dog was looking back. Something passed between them, a recognition that made Shadow whine softly. "You saved him," Oliver said suddenly. "When Walter took the parents, you helped. You opened the cages." Victor's composure cracked slightly. "How could you know that?" "Shadow's mother remembered your kindness." The memory passed to him, and he shared it with me. Oliver stepped closer to the gate, ignoring Sarah's attempt to hold him back. "You didn't know what Nexus was really doing until that night." Victor's hands clenched into fists. "They told us we were advancing science, helping humanity. But those animals, what they did to them, it was torture. Yet you still work for them," Margaret said coldly. "You don't leave Dominion," Victor said. "Not alive. The only reason I'm still breathing is because I'm useful to them." He looked directly at Oliver, but things have changed. Thorne has accelerated the program. He's not just enhancing animals anymore. He has 12 children in a facility in Nevada, children like you, boy. Sarah's blood ran cold. "You're lying." Victor pulled out a phone, showed them a video. It was grainy, obviously taken in secret, but it showed children, none older than 10, sitting in a white room. Each child had a dog beside them, and they were all moving in perfect synchronization, like a choreographed dance. "This was taken 3 days ago," Victor said. "These children were kidnapped from families across the country, families who reported strange connections between their children and animals. Thorne is building his army." Oliver stared at the video, tears running down his face. "They're scared. The children and the dogs, they're all so scared." "We have to help them," Sarah said, her maternal instincts overriding her caution. "That's why I'm here," Victor said. "Not to capture you, but to make a deal. I can get you into the facility. In exchange, you help me disappear afterward. Dominion will kill me for this betrayal, but maybe your network can give me a new life." Margaret laughed bitterly. "You expect us to trust you?" "This could all be an elaborate trap." Victor nodded. "It could be. But ask the boy. Ask him what Shadow sees in me." All eyes turned to Oliver. The boy placed his hand on Shadow's head, closing his eyes. For a long moment, there was silence except for the wind rustling through the trees. When Oliver opened his eyes, they were filled with an understanding beyond his years. "He's telling the truth," Oliver said. "He dreams about them, the animals he couldn't save. They haunt him." He looked at Victor. "Your sister was enhanced, wasn't she? That's why you understand." Victor's face went white. "That's impossible. No one knows about Anna. Shadow knows. He can smell the grief on you, the same grief Walter carried for his wife." Oliver turned to Margaret. "We can trust him, but only partially. He'll help us save the children, but he's also planning something else, something he's not telling us." Victor actually smiled, a sad expression that transformed his scarred face. "The boy is remarkable. Yes, I have my own agenda. Thorne killed my sister when her enhancements became unstable. I want him dead. Helping you helps me achieve that goal." "How do we know this isn't all part of Thorne's plan?" Sarah asked. "Using you to get to us?" Victor pulled up his sleeve, revealing a small device embedded in his arm. Before anyone could stop him, he pulled out a knife and cut it out, blood running down his arm. He threw the bloody device on the ground and crushed it under his boot. That was my tracker. Dominion now thinks I'm dead or rogue. The teams in those vehicles, they're my men, loyal to me, not Dominion. We have maybe 6 hours before Thorn realizes what's happened and sends others. Storm suddenly barked, drawing everyone's attention. The puppy, now nearly full-sized, was staring at something in the distance. Oliver followed his gaze and gasped. "Fire," he said. "There's a fire at the cemetery. Someone's burning the oak tree." Margaret grabbed her binoculars, looking toward town. Indeed, a column of smoke was rising from the direction of Willowbrook Cemetery. "The evidence," Sarah breathed. "They're destroying Walter's evidence." "No," Victor said. "That's not Dominion's style. They would retrieve it, not destroy it." His eyes widened in realization. There's another player. Someone else knows about the enhanced animals. Oliver was trembling now, both puppies pressing against him protectively. The white-haired man in my dreams, Walter, he's screaming. Someone's desecrating his grave. Without warning, Shadow took off running, heading toward town at a speed that seemed impossible. Storm followed immediately, and before anyone could stop him, Oliver was running after them. "Oliver!" Sarah screamed, but her son didn't stop. Victor was already moving. "Get in the vehicles!" If the boy reaches town alone, he's dead. There are things about the enhancement you don't understand. When the animals are threatened, the connected human can go into a protective rage. He could hurt people, or worse, reveal his abilities publicly. They raced to the SUVs, Victor's men, who turned out to be a mix of former military and other Dominion defectors, driving with practiced efficiency. Sarah was in the lead vehicle with Victor and Margaret, her heart pounding as she watched her 5-year-old son running at an inhuman speed, keeping pace with 2 enhanced German shepherds. "That's not possible," she kept saying. "He's just a little boy." "The connection changes them," Victor explained, his eyes never leaving Oliver. "The enhanced animals share more than memories and emotions. They share capabilities, temporarily. Right now, Oliver is drawing on Shadow and Storm's enhanced physical abilities. But it's dangerous. His body isn't designed for it. If he pushes too hard, he didn't need to finish. Sarah could imagine what would happen to her son's small body if he pushed it beyond its limits. They reached the cemetery just as Oliver and the puppies arrived at the burning oak tree. The fire had been set deliberately. Gasoline poured around the base. But that wasn't the worst part. Walter's grave had been dug up, the coffin pulled out and broken open. Standing beside the desecrated grave was a man Sarah had never seen before. Tall, thin, with hollow cheeks and eyes that seemed to burn with fanatic fervor. He was holding something in his hands, a leather-bound journal that must have been hidden in Walter's coffin. "Finally," the man said, his voice carrying despite the roar of the fire, "the true record of the abominations." He looked at Oliver with disgust. "And here's the latest one. The boy who thinks he can control God's creatures." "Who are you?" Oliver demanded, his voice carrying an authority that shouldn't exist in a child. "Reverend Josiah Blackwood," the man said. "I lead the Purification Church. We've been watching, waiting. We know what Dominion is doing, what Walter Grimm was part of. All of it is an affront to nature, to God's plan." Margaret stepped forward, her rifle raised. "You're the one who's been killing enhanced animals around the country. The shelter fires, the poisoned food supplies." Blackwood smiled, an expression devoid of warmth. "Cleansing the world of abominations. These creatures are not natural. They're corruptions, and anyone who bonds with them becomes corrupted too." His eyes fixed on Oliver. "The boy is already lost. Look at him. He's becoming less human by the small moment." Sarah looked at her son and gasped. Oliver's eyes were changing, the pupils elongating slightly, becoming more canine. His posture had shifted too, lower, more predatory. Shadow and Storm flanked him, all 3 moving in perfect synchronization. "Oliver," she called softly, "come back to me, baby." Oliver turned to look at her, and for a moment she saw confusion in his altered eyes. Then he blinked, and they were normal again. "Mom?" He sounded lost, frightened. But Blackwood wasn't done. He pulled out a gun, aiming it at Shadow. "These demons must be destroyed." Everything happened at once. Victor moved faster than Sarah thought possible, tackling Blackwood. The gun went off, the bullet grazing Storm's shoulder. Oliver screamed, a sound that was part human, part animal howl. Every dog within a mile radius responded, their howls creating a chorus that made everyone cover their ears. Shadow leaped at Blackwood, jaws snapping, but Oliver called him back with a sharp command that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than his young throat. The dog stopped instantly, standing guard over the wounded Storm. "No killing," Oliver said, his voice strange, multi-layered. "We're not like them?" Blackwood laughed from where Victor had him pinned. "You see? The boy commands them like a demon lord. He must be stopped before he becomes too powerful." "You're insane," Sarah said, kneeling beside Storm to check his wound. It was superficial, already beginning to heal with that unnatural speed. "Am I?" Blackwood asked. "Tell me, what happens when the boy reaches full maturity? When he can control not just 2 dogs, but hundreds, thousands? What happens when Dominion creates more like him? Humanity will become slaves to these enhanced beings." Oliver stood slowly, his small form somehow commanding despite his size. "You're wrong. The enhancement isn't about control. It's about connection, understanding. Walter knew that. He tried to save the animals because he understood that we're all connected." He walked to Walter's disturbed grave, tears streaming down his face. "You dishonored a good man. A man who gave his life to protect the innocent. Walter Grimm was a fool and a traitor to his species." Blackwood spat. The fire in the oak tree suddenly flared higher, and for a moment Sarah could swear she saw a figure in the flames. An elderly man with white hair, looking down at Oliver with approval. Others saw it too, based on their gasps. Oliver knelt by the grave, placing his small hands on the disturbed earth. "I'm sorry, Mr. Walter. I'll make it right, I promise." Shadow and Storm lay down beside him, their heads bowed as if in prayer. The sight was so poignant that even some of Victor's hardened men looked moved. "We need to go," Victor said urgently. "Local law enforcement will be here soon, and Dominion will have heard about this disturbance. We can't be here." "What about him?" Margaret asked, gesturing to Blackwood. "Take him," Oliver said, standing up. "He needs to see the truth. He needs to understand what Dominion really does." "You want to take your enemy with us?" Victor asked, incredulous. Oliver looked at him with those 2 wise eyes. "He's not my enemy. He's just afraid and misguided. Shadow says fear makes people do terrible things. But understanding can cure fear." Sarah didn't know whether to be proud or terrified of what her son was becoming. This wisdom, this compassion mixed with power. It was beautiful and dangerous in equal measure. They loaded Blackwood into one of the vehicles, bound but not harmed. As they drove away from the burning cemetery, Sarah held Oliver close, feeling his small body trembling with exhaustion. "Mom," he whispered, "I saw things. In the fire. Walter showed me what's coming." "What did you see, baby?" "War," Oliver said simply. "Between those who want to control the enhanced and those who want to destroy them. And us in the middle, trying to save everyone." The convoy headed back to Margaret's farm, but they all knew they couldn't stay there. It was compromised now. As they drove, Victor made calls on a secure phone, arranging safe houses, transportation, new identities. "There's a place in Montana," he said, "an old military base that's been converted into a sanctuary. It's off the grid, defended, and big enough to house all the enhanced animals Margaret has been protecting." "How do you know about it?" Margaret asked suspiciously. "Because I helped set it up," Victor admitted. "Back when I still believed in Dominion's mission, I thought we were creating a safe training ground. Now I know better." Oliver, who had been dozing against Sarah's shoulder, suddenly sat up alert. "They're moving the children. The ones in Nevada. Thorne knows something's wrong. He's accelerating the program." "How can you know that?" Victor asked. "The enhanced network," Oliver said, as if it were obvious. "All the enhanced animals are connected at some level. Shadow and Storm can feel their distress. The children are being moved tonight." "Then we have to intercept them," Sarah said, surprising herself with her conviction. David, who had been quiet since the cemetery, finally spoke. "Sarah, we're talking about going up against a private military company to save children we don't even know. We have Oliver to think about." "Those children are like Oliver," Sarah said. "If we don't save them, what happens to them? What happens to our son when Dominion decides they want him?" "She's right," Margaret said. We can't keep running and hiding. Eventually, we have to take a stand. Victor pulled up a tablet, showing a map. If they're moving the children tonight, they'll use Highway 50 through Nevada. It's isolated, easy to control. But there's a stretch near Austin where the road goes through a canyon. If we were going to intercept. It's a trap, Blackwood said from where he was restrained. Everyone had almost forgotten he was there. Thorne isn't stupid. He knows. Someone might try to save the children. He's counting on it. What do you mean? Oliver asked, looking at the Reverend with curiosity rather than anger. Blackwood was quiet for a moment, studying the boy. You really aren't what I expected, he said finally. Thorne has been spreading information about the transport deliberately. He wants to draw out anyone who opposes him. Those children, they're bait. You're working with Dominion? Margaret accused. No, Blackwood said vehemently. I despise them as much as I despise the enhancements. But I've been monitoring their communications. My church has people everywhere, even inside Dominion. We were planning to intercept the transport ourselves, to save the children from becoming abominations. Save them or kill them? Sarah asked coldly. Blackwood met her gaze steadily. Save them. Whatever you think of me, I don't harm children. We would have taken them to our rehabilitation centers, helped them break their unnatural connections. Oliver stood up, walking over to Blackwood despite Sarah's attempt to stop him. He placed his small hand on the man's arm, and Blackwood flinched. You lost someone, Oliver said softly. Someone you loved was enhanced against their will. They died. Blackwood's composure cracked. My daughter. She was 7. Dominion took her, said she had potential. When they returned her, she could speak to birds, make them do things. But the enhancement was unstable. She died in agony, her mind torn between human and animal. I'm sorry, Oliver said simply, but destroying all enhanced beings won't bring her back. And those children in Nevada, they need our help, not your rehabilitation. We could work together, Victor suggested suddenly. Your church's intelligence network, our capabilities. We both want to stop Dominion, just for different reasons. Work with abominations? Never, Blackwood said, but there was less venom in his voice. Storm limped over to Blackwood, his wound already mostly healed. The dog sat in front of the bound man and offered his paw. It was such a human gesture that everyone stared. He forgives you for shooting him, Oliver translated. He says holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Blackwood stared at the dog's offered paw, tears forming in his eyes. That's something my daughter used to say. Slowly, hesitantly, he reached out and took Storm's paw. The dog's tail wagged once, then he returned to Oliver's side. If we're going to save those children, we need to move now, Victor said, checking his watch. We have maybe 10 hours to get into position. I can help, Blackwood said quietly. I know Dominion's protocols, their transport procedures, and my people are already positioned along Highway 50. Margaret looked skeptical. How do we know this isn't a trap? You could be leading us right to them. Oliver closed his eyes, his connection with Shadow and Storm deepening. When he opened them, he looked certain. He's telling the truth. But there's something else. The children in the transport, one of them is special, more special than me. What do you mean? Sarah asked. I can connect with enhanced animals, but this child, she can enhance normal animals, make them like Shadow and Storm temporarily. Victor's face went pale. That's impossible. The enhancement requires genetic modification. Not for her, Oliver said. Thorne calls her the Genesis child. He believes she's the key to creating an army of enhanced beings without the time and cost of genetic modification. Then we definitely can't let him keep her, David said. If what you're saying is true, this child could change everything. Sarah looked around the vehicle at their unlikely group. A former Dominion operative, a sanctuary keeper, a religious extremist, her family, and 2 enhanced dogs. It wasn't much of an army, but it was all they had. So we're doing this? She asked. Everyone nodded, even Blackwood. Then God help us, Sarah whispered, holding Oliver close. As they drove through the night toward Nevada, Oliver fell asleep again, his head on Sarah's lap, one hand touching Shadow, the other touching Storm. In his sleep, he mumbled words that made Sarah's blood run cold. The Genesis child. She's calling for help. She knows we're coming. But so does Thorn. He wants us to come. He wants to see what Oliver can do. The trap was set, and they were walking right into it. But what choice did they have? Those children needed them, and Oliver wouldn't rest until they were safe. Sarah stroked her son's hair, wondering what he would become, what they all would become before this was over. The convoy stopped at a truck stop near the Utah-Nevada border to refuel and plan. Victor had maps spread across the hood of one of the SUVs, marking positions and routes. Blackwood, now unbound but closely watched, was on his phone coordinating with his church members. "I have 12 of my people positioned along Highway 50, he reported. "They're armed but under strict orders not to engage unless the children are in immediate danger." "Good," Victor said. "We'll need them as lookouts." The transport will consist of 3 vehicles, 2 escort SUVs and an armored van in the middle. The children will be in the van. "How many guards?" Margaret asked. "Usually 8 to 10, all former military, all enhanced themselves." Sarah's head snapped up. "The guards are enhanced?" Victor nodded grimly. "Thorn's elite unit. They have increased strength, speed, and healing. Not as dramatic as the animals, but enough to make them formidable." "Can Oliver control enhanced humans?" David asked. Everyone looked at the boy, who was sitting with Shadow and Storm, sharing a bag of chips with them. He looked up at the question, his expression thoughtful. "I don't know," he admitted. "I've never tried. But I don't think I'd want to. Controlling people. That's what Thorn does. That's wrong." "Even to save lives?" Blackwood asked, genuinely curious. Oliver considered this. "Maybe to stop them from hurting others, but not to make them do things against their will. That's not connection, that's slavery." The wisdom in his words made everyone uncomfortable. This was still a 5-year-old boy, yet he was grappling with ethical questions that most adults couldn't answer. "We have another problem," Victor said, checking his phone. "Dominion's tracking satellites will pick us up if we get too close in these vehicles. We need a different approach." "School buses?" Oliver said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. "There's a church youth camp near Austin. They use school buses. If Reverend Blackwood's people could borrow them." Blackwood actually smiled. "That's brilliant. A church group on a camping trip. Dominion would never suspect. Unless they've been monitoring your communications," Margaret pointed out. "They haven't," Blackwood said confidently. "We use old-fashioned methods, coded letters, face-to-face meetings. We learned from what happened to other groups that opposed them." As they planned, Oliver grew increasingly agitated. Shadow and Storm picked up on his distress, pacing restlessly. "What's wrong, sweetie?" Sarah asked. "The Genesis child. Her name is Lily. She's scared. They're doing something to her, preparing her for something." His eyes went wide. "Oh no. Thorn is with them. He's in the transport." Victor cursed. "That changes everything. Marcus Thorn never travels with transports, if he's there." "It means he knows we're coming," Margaret finished. "This isn't just a trap, it's a demonstration. He wants to see what his Genesis child can do against us." "Then we call it off," David said immediately. "We can't risk Oliver." But Oliver was already shaking his head. "We can't leave them. She's like my sister, but different. I can feel her in the network. She's so scared, and she's only 7. 2 years older than me, but still just a kid." "Oliver," Sarah said gently, "sometimes the brave thing is knowing when not to fight." Oliver looked at her with those 2 old eyes. "And sometimes, Mom, the brave thing is fighting even when you're scared. Walter knew that. He died getting Shadow and Storm's parents out. We have to try." Storm barked once in agreement, and Shadow moved to stand protectively beside Oliver. "The boy's right," Blackwood said, surprising everyone. "I've spent so much time fearing these enhanced beings that I forgot they're still children, still innocent. If we don't try to save them, we're no better than Thorn." Victor stood up, his decision made. "We go in smart. Use the buses as cover, create a distraction, grab the children and run. We'll need to split up. One team to stop the transport, another to extract the children, and a third to provide cover for the escape." "I'll lead the extraction team," Margaret said. "I'll handle the distraction," Blackwood offered. "My people know how to make noise." "And I'll stop the transport," Victor said. "I know their protocols, their weaknesses." "What about us?" Sarah asked, indicating her family. You stay with the escape vehicles, Victor said. Oliver's too valuable to risk in direct combat. But Oliver was shaking his head. I have to be there. Lily won't trust anyone else. The enhanced children, they've been hurt by adults. They need to see someone like them. Sarah wanted to protest, but she could see the determination in her son's eyes. This wasn't just about saving children anymore. It was about Oliver accepting what he was becoming, embracing his role in this strange new world. I'll stay with him, she said firmly. Every step. David nodded. Then I'm coming too. We're a family. We stick together. As dawn approached, they moved out in a convoy of 3 school buses and 2 supply trucks, all bearing the logos of Blackwood's Purification Church. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. A group dedicated to destroying enhanced beings was now helping to save them. Oliver sat in the front of the lead bus, Shadow and Storm at his feet. He had been quiet for the last hour, his eyes closed, his breathing deep and even. What's he doing? Blackwood asked Sarah. Connecting, she said. He's reaching out through the network, trying to communicate with Lily and the other children. And can he? Sarah watched her son's face, seeing it twitch with concentration. I don't know. This is all new to us too. Suddenly Oliver's eyes snapped open. They know we're coming, Lily told the others. They're ready to run when we create the opening. How many children? Victor asked over the radio. 12, including Lily, all between 5 and 10 years old, each bonded with an enhanced animal, dogs, cats, even a raven. A raven? Blackwood said, incredulous. Enhanced creatures aren't limited to mammals, Victor explained. Dominion has experimented with all types of animals. Birds are particularly useful for surveillance. As they approached the canyon where they planned to intercept, Oliver grew more agitated. Something's wrong. There are more vehicles than you said. 5, not 3. Victor checked his surveillance equipment. He's right. They've doubled the escort. Everyone stay alert. The buses took position at a scenic overlook that provided a view of the highway below. The transport would pass beneath them in approximately 10 minutes. Remember, Victor said over the radio, we have one shot at this. If we fail, those children disappear forever. Sarah held Oliver's hand, feeling it tremble slightly. Are you scared? Terrified, he admitted. But Lily is counting on me. They all are. The first vehicle appeared around the bend, a black SUV with tinted windows, then another, then the armored van, then 2 more SUVs. They were moving fast but not recklessly, maintaining perfect formation. Now, Victor commanded. Blackwood's people triggered the landslide they had prepared, not enough to harm anyone, but enough to block the road. The convoy screeched to a halt, guards pouring out of the vehicles, weapons drawn. That's when things went wrong. Instead of taking defensive positions, the guards began to change. Their bodies grew larger. Their movements became more fluid, more animalistic. These weren't just enhanced humans. They were something more, something worse. Hybrids, Victor breathed. Thorne actually did it. He created human-animal hybrids. One of the guards, now standing 7 feet tall with features that were part human, part wolf, howled. The sound echoed through the canyon, primal and terrifying. Abort! Victor shouted. This is beyond what we... But Oliver was already moving. He jumped from the bus, despite Sarah's attempt to grab him, Shadow and Storm beside him. As his feet hit the ground, something remarkable happened. His presence seemed to radiate outward, a calming wave that made even the hybrid guards pause. Let the children go, Oliver said, his young voice carrying impossible authority. They don't belong to you. The back of the armored van opened, and Marcus Thorne stepped out. He was exactly as he appeared in the photos, distinguished, silver-haired, with cold blue eyes that held no warmth. But what emerged behind him made everyone gasp. It was Lily, a small girl with dark skin and bright green eyes that seemed to glow. But around her, the air itself seemed alive. Dozens of normal birds had gathered, crows, hawks, even eagles, and they moved in perfect synchronization with her breathing. Ah, the famous Oliver, Thorne said, his voice cultured and calm. I've been so looking forward to meeting you. You see, you're not just here to save these children, you're here to join them. Never, Sarah shouted, running toward her son. Thorne smiled. I wasn't talking to you. He looked at Oliver. "Tell me, boy, haven't you wondered why your connection is so strong? Why you can do things that should be impossible?" Oliver stood his ground, though Sarah could see him trembling. "I'm not enhanced. I'm just connected." "Oh, but you are enhanced," Thorn said. "Not genetically like these others, but your mother participated in a drug trial when she was pregnant with you, a trial run by a Dominion subsidiary. You've been enhanced since before you were born." Sarah felt the world spin. "That's not the fertility treatments. They said they were safe." "They were safe," Thorn said. "Safe and effective. Oliver is the result. A naturally born enhanced human, capable of connecting with any enhanced creature. He's worth more than all these other children combined." Oliver looked back at his mother, betrayal in his eyes. "You knew?" "No," Sarah said desperately. "I didn't know. I would never—" "It doesn't matter," Thorn interrupted. "What matters is that Oliver comes with me willingly. In exchange, I'll let the other children go. All of them, including Lily. Don't listen to him," Victor warned. "He never keeps his word." But Oliver was looking at Lily, and she was looking back. Something passed between them, a communication that transcended words. "If I come with you," Oliver said slowly, "you'll let everyone else go? My parents, Margaret, even Victor and Reverend Blackwood?" Thorn nodded. "You have my word. I only want you, Oliver. You're the key to everything." Shadow and Storm pressed against Oliver, whining. They knew what he was thinking, and they didn't like it. "Oliver, no," Sarah pleaded. "We'll find another way." But Oliver had already made his decision. He took a step toward Thorn. "I'll come. But first, let the children get on the buses." Thorn gestured, and the guards opened the van's doors wider. 11 children emerged, each accompanied by an enhanced animal. They looked terrified, but hopeful, their eyes fixed on Oliver. "Go," Oliver told them. "Get on the buses. You'll be safe now." As the children moved toward the buses, Lily broke away from Thorn's side and ran to Oliver. She hugged him tightly, whispering something in his ear. Oliver's eyes widened, then he nodded. "Thank you," Lily said aloud, then ran to join the other children. "Now," Thorn said, extending his hand to Oliver. "Come. Your real education begins today." Oliver looked back at his parents one last time. "I love you. Take care of Shadow and Storm." "No!" Sarah screamed, running toward her son. But Oliver had already taken Thorn's hand. The moment their skin touched, something extraordinary happened. Every enhanced creature in the area, the guard hybrids, the children's animals, even Shadow and Storm, froze in place. Oliver's eyes were glowing, actually glowing with a golden light. "What's happening?" Thorn demanded, trying to pull his hand away but finding he couldn't move. Oliver spoke, but his voice was different. Older, multiple tones layered together. "You made a mistake, Thorn. When you enhanced me in the womb, you didn't just give me the ability to connect with enhanced creatures. You gave me the ability to control the enhancement itself." The glow spread from Oliver to Thorn, and the man screamed. Not in pain, but in terror, as he felt something fundamental changing inside him. "I'm not taking your enhancement away," Oliver said in that multi-layered voice. "I'm giving you complete enhancement. Let's see how you like being more animal than human." Thorn's body began to change. His fingers elongated into claws, his teeth sharpened, his eyes became yellow and slitted. Fur sprouted across his skin as his face elongated into a snout. Within moments, where Marcus Thorn had stood, there was now a creature that was neither fully human nor fully wolf, but something caught between, something monstrous. The creature that had been Thorn howled in anguish and fled into the desert, running on all fours. The hybrid guards, suddenly freed from his control, collapsed to their knees, their bodies slowly reverting to fully human. Oliver released the power, the glow fading from his eyes. He swayed on his feet, and Sarah caught him before he fell. "Oliver, baby, are you okay?" He looked up at her with exhausted but normal eyes. "I'm okay, Mom. Lily told me what to do." She knew Thorn's weakness. He enhanced himself partially to better control the hybrids. "I just finished the job." "That was incredible," Victor said, approaching cautiously, "but also terrifying. That kind of power—" "I won't use it again unless I have to," Oliver said weakly. "It hurts. And it's wrong to change people without their permission. But Thorn, He had changed so many against their will. It seemed like justice. Blackwood had watched the entire exchange in stunned silence. Now he approached Oliver slowly, then did something unexpected. He knelt. "I was wrong," he said simply. "You're not an abomination. You're something else, something necessary perhaps." Oliver reached out and touched the Reverend's shoulder. "We all are what we choose to be. Enhanced or not, we're defined by our choices, not our abilities." As they loaded everyone onto the buses, the freed children, the reformed guards who had nowhere else to go, their unlikely alliance of rescuers, Sarah held Oliver close. Her little boy had just defeated one of the most powerful men in the country, but he was still her baby, still the child who needed her comfort and protection. "Mom," Oliver said softly, "I'm sorry I scared you." "You saved everyone," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But promise me something. Promise me you'll still be my little boy sometimes, even with all this power." Oliver smiled, looking more like a 5-year-old than he had in days. "I'll always be your little boy, Mom. The enhancement doesn't change that." Shadow and Storm jumped onto the bus, immediately curling up around Oliver protectively. They had grown again during the confrontation, now fully adult-sized, despite being only days old. As the buses pulled away from the scene, Lily came to sit beside Oliver. The two enhanced children looked at each other with understanding beyond their years. "There are others," Lily said quietly. "Other facilities, other children." Thorn was just one head of the Hydra. Oliver nodded. "I know, I can feel them in the network, but we'll find them. We'll save them all." "Together?" Lily asked. "Together," Oliver confirmed. Sarah listened to this exchange with mixed feelings. Her son was planning a war against forces she couldn't fully understand. But looking at him surrounded by rescued children, enhanced animals, and unlikely allies, she realized this was his destiny. Whatever those fertility drugs had done, they had created not just an enhanced child, but a leader, a bridge between the normal and enhanced worlds. The convoy of buses rolled through the desert as the sun climbed higher, carrying their strange cargo of rescued children, enhanced animals, and an alliance that no one could have predicted. Sarah watched Oliver sleep against her shoulder, his breathing finally peaceful after the confrontation with Thorn. Shadow and Storm lay at his feet, ever vigilant even in their rest. "We can't go to Montana now," Victor said from the driver's seat. "Dominion will have it locked down within hours." "I know a place," Lily said softly. She had barely spoken since they'd left, but now her green eyes were bright with memory. "Before Thorn took me, I lived with my grandmother on a reservation in New Mexico. The tribal council knows about enhanced beings. They've been protecting some for generations." Margaret leaned forward from her seat. "Native tribes have oral histories of human-animal connections going back centuries. It would make sense they'd be sympathetic." "How far?" David asked, checking their fuel gauge. 3 hours, Lily said. "Maybe 4. My grandmother is a medicine woman. She'll know what to do." Oliver stirred in his sleep, mumbling something that sounded like agreement. Even unconscious, he was connected to the network, aware of the conversation. Blackwood, who had been silent since his revelation at the canyon, finally spoke. "My people are asking questions. They want to know why we're helping the very beings we swore to eliminate." "What are you telling them?" Sarah asked. "The truth," he said simply. "That I was wrong. That fear made me blind to what these children really are. Not abominations, but evolution. God's plan unfolding in ways we didn't expect." "That's quite a reversal," Victor noted. "I held my daughter as she died," Blackwood said quietly. "I blame the enhancement, blame Dominion, blame God himself. But watching Oliver today, seeing him choose mercy over revenge, my daughter would have wanted me to protect these children, not hunt them." One of the rescued children, a boy no older than 8 with an enhanced cat curled in his lap, spoke up. "Mister, your daughter, was her name Amy?" Blackwood's head snapped around. "How could you know that?" The boy looked uncomfortable. "Sometimes we share memories through the network. Not on purpose, they just leak through. I saw her. She had brown hair and loved butterflies." Tears ran down Blackwood's weathered face. Yes, that was Amy." "She's still in the network," the boy said softly. "Not alive, but remembered." The enhanced creatures that knew her carry pieces of her memory. She's not completely gone. Blackwood broke down sobbing, and Sarah was surprised to see Victor place a comforting hand on his shoulder. These men who had been enemies hours ago were now united by shared loss and newfound purpose. As they drove, Oliver's connection to the network grew stronger. Still asleep, he began to speak in that multi-layered voice that suggested he was channeling multiple consciousnesses. They're mobilizing. Dominion's board is meeting. They're activating Protocol 7. Victor went rigid. That's not possible. Protocol 7 was theoretical only. What's Protocol 7? Sarah demanded. Complete activation of all enhanced assets worldwide. Every enhanced creature, every hybrid guard, every partially enhanced human, all activated simultaneously for a single purpose. What purpose? Margaret asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. Retrieval or termination of all rogue enhanced beings, Victor said grimly. They'd rather destroy everything than lose control. Oliver's eyes snapped open, fully alert. We have maybe 6 hours before they activate it. When they do, every enhanced creature not under their direct control will be compelled to either return to Dominion or terminate themselves. Including Shadow and Storm? Sarah asked, horrified. Including me, Oliver said quietly. I'm enhanced too, remember? The bus fell silent as the implications sank in. Then Lily spoke up, her young voice carrying surprising strength. There's a way to stop it. The activation requires a central transmitter. Destroy that, and the protocol fails. You know where it is? Victor asked. I helped build it, Lily said, shame coloring her voice. Thorne made me enhance the carrier pigeons they use as backup communication. The transmitter is at Dominion's main facility in Colorado, underground, heavily defended. Then we're finished, Blackwood said. We can't assault a fortified position with buses full of children. No, Oliver said, standing despite the moving bus. We can't, but I can. Absolutely not, Sarah said immediately. You're 5 years old. I'm 5 years old, with the power to control enhancement itself, Oliver corrected. And I'm not going alone. Shadow, Storm, and I are going with whoever volunteers. The rest of you get the children to safety. I'm going, Lily said immediately. So am I, Victor said. I know the facility layout. And I, Blackwood added, surprising everyone again, my people have explosives. We'll need them. Margaret sighed. I'm too old for this kind of mission. I'll take the other children to the reservation, keep them safe. We're coming with you, David said, referring to himself and Sarah. Our son doesn't go into danger without us. Oliver looked at his parents with those two old eyes. You could die. So could you, Sarah said firmly. We're a family. We face things together. The bus suddenly lurched to a stop. Through the windshield, they could see why. A roadblock ahead, military vehicles and armed soldiers. But something was off about their positioning, their posture. Those aren't Dominion, Victor said, studying them through binoculars. Those are actual U.S. military. A voice came over a loudspeaker. This is Colonel James Patterson, United States Army. We know you have enhanced individuals aboard. You're ordered to exit the vehicles with your hands visible. It's a trap, Blackwood said. Dominion must have called them in. But Oliver was shaking his head. No, there's someone with them. Someone like us. He pressed his face to the window. I can feel her. She's old, very old, and very powerful. The soldiers parted, and a figure walked forward. It was an elderly Native American woman, her long gray hair braided, wearing traditional dress mixed with modern clothing. She moved with surprising grace for her age, and beside her walked a massive white wolf that couldn't possibly be natural. That's my grandmother, Lily exclaimed. But how did she know? The elderly woman approached the bus and spoke, her voice carrying despite the distance. I am Maria Crow Feather. I've been waiting for you, Oliver Miller. The spirits told me you would come, bringing the new children with you. Oliver looked at his parents, then made a decision. He opened the bus door and stepped out, Shadow and Storm immediately flanking him. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Colonel Patterson held up a hand. Stand down. The boy is not a threat. Oliver walked forward slowly, his small figure dwarfed by the German shepherds beside him. When he reached Maria, she knelt to his level, studying his face. "You have the gift," she said, "the bridge between worlds. My people have legends of such children, born once in a generation to maintain the balance." She looked at the white wolf beside her. "This is Spirit. He's been my companion for 40 years, enhanced not by science, but by ancient ways." 40 years? Victor said, having exited the bus. "That's impossible. Enhanced animals don't live that long." Maria smiled. "Dominion's enhancement is artificial, forced. The natural enhancement, the one that comes from true bonding, is different. It extends life, shares strength." She looked at Shadow and Storm. "These two will live as long as Oliver does, and he will live far longer than normal humans." "How do you know this?" Sarah asked, having rushed to stand near her son. "Because I am 103 years old," Maria said, "and I bonded with Spirit when I was 60. The connection sustains us both." Colonel Patterson approached. "Mrs. Crow Feather came to us 3 days ago with evidence of Dominion's illegal activities. The military has been investigating, but we needed proof. Then we detected the incident at the canyon." "You saw what happened to Thorn?" Victor asked. "Satellite surveillance caught everything," Patterson confirmed. "A man transforming into a creature, children controlling animals, birds moving in impossible formations. It's given us the evidence we needed to move against Dominion." "But Protocol 7, Oliver started, "is exactly why we need to move now," Patterson interrupted. "We've been monitoring Dominion's communications. If they activate that protocol, thousands of enhanced beings worldwide will die. The military can't allow that level of casualties." "So you'll help us?" David asked hopefully. Patterson nodded. "We're mobilizing a strike team to hit the Colorado facility. But we need inside knowledge, and, frankly, we need Oliver. Whatever he did to Thorn proves he's the only one who can neutralize Dominion's enhanced assets without killing them." Sarah's protective instincts flared. "You want to use my son as a weapon?" "No," Maria said gently. "We want to support him as he fulfills his purpose." "There's a difference." She looked at Oliver. "The choice is his." Oliver closed his eyes, connecting deeply with the network. When he opened them, they glowed faintly with that golden light. "There are 300 enhanced children in Dominion facilities worldwide," he said in his multi-layered voice. 2,000 enhanced animals. 500 hybrid guards who never chose their transformation. If Protocol 7 activates, they all die. He looked at his mother. "I have to try." The combined convoy, military vehicles, buses, and their original SUVs, moved toward a military base 2 hours away. During the drive, plans were made, strategies discussed. Oliver sat with Lily, their enhanced animals around them, sharing information through the network. "There's something else," Lily said quietly. "Something I didn't tell anyone. Thorn had a backup plan. If he was ever incapacitated, control of Dominion would pass to his son." "Thorn has a son?" Victor asked, alarmed. "Adrian Thorn. He's 25, and he's worse than his father. Marcus at least had scientific goals. Adrian just wants power." Oliver's expression darkened. "I can feel him in the network. He's wrong. His enhancement is unstable, mixing multiple animal traits. He's becoming something monstrous by choice." At the military base, they were met by a full strike team and something unexpected. Reporters. Somehow word had leaked about the enhanced children, and news vans surrounded the perimeter. "This could be good," Patterson said. "Public attention makes it harder for Dominion to operate in shadows." But Oliver looked worried. "Or it makes them desperate. Desperate people do terrible things." As they prepared for the assault, Maria took Oliver aside. Spirit and Shadow and Storm formed a protective circle around them. "There's something you need to know," she said. "The enhancement, whether scientific or natural, comes with a price. The more you use your power, the less human you become. Not physically, but spiritually. You risk losing yourself in the network. Like Thorn's son?" "Exactly. He embraced the animal side completely, lost his humanity. You must maintain the balance. Remember who you are." "How?" Maria smiled. "By remembering love. Your parents' love, your friends' love, even your enemy's humanity. Love is what separates us from beasts, enhanced or otherwise." The assault began at sunset. 3 teams would strike simultaneously. One led by Patterson to secure the facility's perimeter, one led by Victor to disable security systems, and one led by Oliver to reach the Protocol 7 transmitter. Sarah and David insisted on being part of Oliver's team, along with Lily, Blackwood, and their enhanced animals. They were equipped with military gear that looked absurd on the children, but was necessary for protection. As they approached the facility through an old mining tunnel Victor knew about, Oliver felt the network suddenly explode with activity. "They know we're coming," he said. "Adrian is calling all enhanced assets to the facility." "How many?" Blackwood asked, checking his weapons. "Too many," Oliver admitted, "but I have an idea." He sat down in the tunnel, placing his hands on Shadow and Storm. Lily understood immediately and joined him, her hands on her enhanced Raven that had been rescued from the transport. "We're going to call for help," Oliver explained. "Not just the enhanced beings Dominion controls, but all of them. Every enhanced creature that can hear us." "That's dangerous," Victor warned. "You could lose yourself in that many connections." "That's why we're doing it together," Lily said. "Oliver and I can balance each other." The 2 children closed their eyes, their enhanced companions pressing close. The air around them began to shimmer with that golden light Oliver had displayed before, but now mixed with a green glow from Lily. Miles away, enhanced animals in Dominion facilities raised their heads. Further still, enhanced creatures that had escaped over the years felt the call. Even normal animals felt something, a pull toward Colorado. In the facility, Adrian Thorne stood in the control room, his body a grotesque mixture of human and various animal features. Wolf fangs, eagle eyes, bear claws. He watched the monitors showing the approaching military forces and laughed. "Let them come," he said to his lieutenants. "We'll activate Protocol 7 early. Better to destroy all enhanced beings than let them fall into military hands." But as he reached for the activation switch, every enhanced being in the facility froze. They were all looking in the same direction, toward the mining tunnel. "What's happening?" Adrian demanded. "Sir," one of his technicians said, voice shaking, "we're detecting a massive convergence of enhanced signatures. Hundreds of them, all moving toward our location." Adrian's mismatched eyes widened. "Impossible. We control all enhanced assets." "Not all," said a voice from the doorway. Adrian spun to see his father, or what his father had become. Marcus Thorne stood there, his wolf-like form trembling with rage and pain. "Hello, son," Marcus growled through his transformed muzzle. "We need to talk about your inheritance." The confrontation between father and son gave Oliver's team the distraction they needed. They emerged from the tunnel, into the facility's lower levels, immediately encountering hybrid guards. But instead of attacking, the guards stepped aside. "The boy's power," one guard said, his voice rough from partial transformation. "We can feel it. He could free us from this curse." "I will," Oliver promised. "But first, we stop Protocol 7. They moved through the facility, gathering followers, enhanced, beings who chose to rebel against their controllers. By the time they reached the control room, they had an army. Adrian and Marcus were still fighting, their enhanced forms clashing with brutal force. Adrian's multiple enhancements made him stronger, but Marcus's full wolf transformation made him faster. "Stop!" Oliver commanded, his voice carrying that multi-layered authority. Both Thorns froze, turning to look at the small boy who had entered their domain. "You!" Adrian snarled. "You did this to my father." "Your father did it to himself," Oliver replied calmly. "Just as you're doing it to yourself. Look at what you've become." Adrian caught sight of himself in a reflective surface and recoiled. His transformation had progressed during the fight. He was barely recognizable as human anymore. "This is power," he said, but uncertainty colored his voice. "This is fear," Oliver corrected. "You're so afraid of being weak that you've given up being human." Lily stepped forward, her raven perched on her shoulder. "We can help you." "Both of you? The enhancement doesn't have to be a curse." Marcus approached slowly, his wolf form towering over the children. I can't change back. I've tried." Oliver reached out, placing his small hand on Marcus's fur. "Because you're fighting it. The wolf isn't your enemy. It's part of you now. Accept it, and you can find balance." The golden glow emanated from Oliver's touch, and slowly Marcus began to change. Not back to fully human, but to something in between. a man with wolf-like features but retaining his humanity. How? Marcus whispered. The same way we all find balance, Oliver said, by choosing who we want to be. Adrian watched this transformation with a mixture of awe and rage. No! Power isn't about balance, it's about domination. He lunged for the Protocol 7 controls, but Shadow and Storm intercepted him, their enhanced speed allowing them to knock him away from the console. It's over, Adrian, Victor said, entering with Colonel Patterson and a squad of soldiers. Dominion is finished. Your facilities are being raided worldwide. The enhanced beings are being freed. Then I'll destroy them all, Adrian screamed, his unstable enhancement causing his body to shift and writhe. If I can't control them, no one can. He began to transform further, drawing on every enhancement in his system. His body grew larger, more monstrous, losing all human shape. He became a creature of nightmare, wings, claws, fangs, scales, all merged into something that shouldn't exist. Everyone out, Patterson ordered, but Oliver stood his ground. No, running won't solve this. He looked at his parents. Trust me. Sarah wanted to grab her son and flee, but she saw the determination in his eyes. This was his moment, his purpose. Oliver walked toward the monstrous thing Adrian had become. Shadow and Storm stayed beside him, but they were trembling. Even they were afraid of what Adrian had become. You're in pain, Oliver said softly. I can feel it through the network. Every transformation hurts you. You're tearing yourself apart. The creature that had been Adrian roared, a sound that shook the walls, but Oliver kept walking forward. Let me help you, Oliver said, extending his hand. Please. For a moment, the creature hesitated. Deep inside the monstrous form, some remnant of Adrian Thorne remained, and it was tired of the pain. The creature lowered its massive head, and Oliver placed his hand on it. The golden glow erupted, brighter than ever before, but this time, Lily joined him, adding her green light to his gold. Together, they began to unweave the tangled enhancements that were destroying Adrian. It was excruciating to watch. Adrian's body convulsed, shifted, parts of it seeming to melt and reform. Sarah covered her eyes, but she could still hear the screams, both human and animal. When the light finally faded, Adrian Thorne lay on the floor, fully human again, but unconscious. Oliver and Lily collapsed beside him, exhausted. Oliver! Sarah ran to her son, gathering him in her arms. He looked up at her with tired but clear eyes. We did it, Mom. We saved him. The Protocol 7 transmitter, Victor reminded them urgently. We still need to destroy it. Blackwood stepped forward with his explosives. Allow me. I've been destroying things for the wrong reasons for too long. Time to destroy something that actually needs it. As they evacuated the facility, carrying the unconscious Adrian and supporting the exhausted children, enhanced beings poured out of every door. Creatures that had been prisoners were finally free, and they all seemed to look to Oliver for guidance. Where do we go? A young girl with the enhanced cat asked. Wherever you want, Oliver said. You're free now. But if you need help, there are people who will protect you. He looked at Maria, who nodded. The reservation is open to all who need sanctuary, she announced. Enhanced or not, you're welcome. The explosion that destroyed the Protocol 7 transmitter was visible for miles. With it went Dominion's ability to control enhanced beings worldwide. Reports came in over the next hours, facilities being liberated, enhanced beings walking free, families reunited. Marcus Thorne, in his balanced wolf-human form, stood before Colonel Patterson. I'll testify, he said. Tell everything I know about Dominion's operations. It's the least I can do to atone. And your son? Patterson asked. Needs help, Marcus admitted. Psychological help. The enhancement corrupted him, or maybe revealed what was already corrupt. Either way, he's my responsibility. As dawn broke over the destroyed facility, Oliver stood with his family, looking out at the gathering of enhanced beings and their human allies. Shadow and Storm, now fully grown and magnificent, stood beside him. What happens now? David asked. Now we build something new, Oliver said. A world where enhanced and normal can coexist, where connection matters more than control. That's a big job for a 5-year-old, Sarah said, ruffling his hair. Oliver smiled, looking more like a normal child than he had in days. Good thing I'm not doing it alone. Lily approached with her grandmother. The tribal council wants to establish a school, Maria announced, for enhanced children and those who bond with them, a place to learn control, balance, and purpose. Will you help teach? Lily asked Oliver. I'm 5, Oliver reminded her. I should probably learn first. Everyone laughed, a sound of relief and hope after so much fear and violence. Over the following weeks, the world struggled to adapt to the revelation of enhanced beings. There were protests, demands for registration, fear-mongering by some media outlets. But there were also stories of heroism, enhanced animals saving people from disasters, enhanced humans using their abilities to help others. Oliver became a reluctant celebrity, the face of the enhanced community. But he remained at heart a 5-year-old boy who loved his parents and his dogs. The media often caught him playing normal children's games with Shadow and Storm, reminding the world that enhanced beings were still beings, still deserving of compassion and respect. The school on the reservation opened within a month, with Margaret as one of the lead instructors and Blackwood, surprisingly, teaching ethics and philosophy. His transformation from enemy to ally became a powerful symbol of how understanding could overcome fear. Victor worked with the military to track down remaining Dominion operations, ensuring no enhanced being remained enslaved. He also worked on developing ethical guidelines for any future enhancement research, determined that the horrors of Dominion would never be repeated. One evening, 3 months after the confrontation at the facility, Oliver sat with his family on their porch. They had moved to a house near the reservation, close enough to the school but maintaining some privacy. Shadow and Storm lay at his feet, no longer puppies but magnificent adult dogs whose intelligence shone in their eyes. "Do you ever regret finding us?" Oliver asked suddenly. Sarah looked at her son, surprised. "What do you mean? Your life was normal before. Now you're the parents of the enhanced boy who changed everything. That can't be easy." David knelt beside his son. "Oliver, finding Shadow and Storm, discovering what you could do, it didn't change who you are to us. You're still our son. The boy who talked to his grandmother's grave, who arranged his toy cars in perfect lines. But now you also help people," Sarah added. "You saved hundreds of enhanced beings, brought together enemies, showed the world that different doesn't mean dangerous." "We couldn't be prouder," David finished. Oliver hugged them both, and for a moment, he was just a little boy again, safe in his parents' love. A howl echoed across the desert, not a threatening sound, but a call of community. Other enhanced animals answered, their voices creating a harmony that had never existed before. It was the sound of a new world being born, one where the enhanced and the normal could find balance together. 6 months passed. The school grew from a handful of students to over 100, with enhanced children and their bonded animals coming from around the world. Oliver, despite his young age, became a mentor to many, his unique ability to connect with any enhanced being making him invaluable in helping new students find their balance. One morning, a government convoy arrived at the school. Oliver sensed them coming through the network, but felt no hostility. Colonel Patterson stepped out, accompanied by someone Oliver didn't expect, Adrian Thorne. Adrian looked different. Months of therapy and removal of his enhancements had left him fully human, but somehow more whole. He walked with a cane, his body still recovering from the trauma of his transformations. "Hello, Oliver," Adrian said quietly. "I wanted to thank you. You saved my life, probably my soul too." Oliver studied him carefully, Shadow and Storm alert beside him. "You're healing." "Slowly," Adrian admitted. "I'm testifying against the remaining Dominion board members, trying to make amends." He paused. "I'm also funding research into helping enhanced beings who want to return to normal, not forcing anyone, just giving them the choice." "Choice is good," Oliver agreed. "That's all anyone really wants, the freedom to choose who they are." Adrian nodded, then did something unexpected. He knelt, bringing himself to Oliver's eye level. "I'm sorry. For everything Dominion did, for what I became. You're just a child, and we tried to turn you into a weapon." "But I chose to be a bridge instead," Oliver said. "That's the difference between us and you back then. We choose connection over control." Adrian stood, wincing slightly. "The government is forming a department for enhanced affairs. They want someone from the enhanced community to help lead it. They asked me to ask you." "I'm 5, Oliver interrupted with a smile. "Maybe ask me again when I'm older." Everyone laughed, but Patterson stepped forward. Actually, we were thinking of Maria Crow Feather, with you and Lily as youth advisors. Your perspectives are valuable, even at your age. Oliver looked at Lily, who had approached during the conversation. They had one of their silent communications, the kind that had become common between enhanced individuals. We'll help, Lily said for both of them. But the school comes first. These children need stability more than the government needs advisors. A year passed. Oliver was now 6, though he carried himself with the wisdom of someone much older. The world had largely accepted enhanced beings, though pockets of resistance remained. The Purification Church, under Blackwood's reformed leadership, had become a bridge between religious communities and the enhanced preaching acceptance and understanding. On the anniversary of finding Shadow and Storm, the Turner family returned to Willowbrook Cemetery. The oak tree had regrown, young and strong, from the roots that survived the fire. Walter Grimm's grave had been restored, with a new headstone that read, Guardian of the Enhanced, Protector of the Innocent. Oliver placed flowers on both Walter's and his grandmother, Rose's, graves. Shadow and Storm sat quietly beside him, their heads bowed in respect. Thank you, Oliver said softly to Walter's grave, for trusting us with them, for believing someone would come. The wind rustled through the young oak's leaves, and for a moment, Oliver could swear he heard a voice, old, kind, grateful. But it might have just been the wind. As they walked back through the cemetery, they encountered Harold, the old caretaker who had warned them that first night. He stopped when he saw them, his eyes widening at the sight of Shadow and Storm, now magnificent adults. You kept them, he said, wonder in his voice. They kept us, Sarah corrected. They made us a family. Harold nodded slowly. I was wrong to call them cursed. I see that now. They were blessed, and they blessed you in return. That evening, back at their home near the reservation, Oliver sat with his parents, telling them about his day at school. He was learning to read, struggling with math like any 6-year-old, but also teaching others how to bond with enhanced animals, how to find balance between human and animal consciousness. Mrs. Patterson says I'm doing well in regular classes, Oliver reported proudly. I might not be enhanced in learning, just in connection. That's a relief, Sarah laughed. I was worried we'd have nothing to teach you. You teach me every day, Oliver said seriously. You teach me about love, about family, about being human. That's more important than any enhancement. A alert came through the network, not an emergency, just a notification. A new enhanced child had been found in Japan, a girl who could bond with sea creatures. The international enhanced community was mobilizing to help her and her family. Duty calls? David asked, seeing Oliver's distant expression. Not duty, Oliver said. Opportunity. Another chance to show the world that enhanced beings aren't a threat, but a gift. He stood up, Shadow and Storm rising with him. At 6 years old, he was still small, still needed help reaching high shelves and tying his shoes. But he was also a leader, a bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope for enhanced beings everywhere. Can I go help? He asked his parents. Lily and her grandmother are organizing a welcome committee. Sarah and David exchanged glances, then nodded. Their little boy was growing up, but he was growing up with purpose, with compassion, with the support of an entire community. As Oliver ran off with Shadow and Storm, Sarah called after him, Be home for dinner. I will, he called back, his voice carrying on the desert wind. 2 years passed. Oliver was now 8, and the world had changed dramatically. The Enhanced Rights Act had been passed in most countries, granting legal protection to enhanced beings. The school on the reservation had become a model, with similar institutions opening worldwide. Oliver had grown too, though not just physically. His connection to the network had deepened, allowing him to sense enhanced beings across continents. But he had also learned to shut it off, to be just a normal boy when he needed to be. On this particular day, he was playing soccer with other children, both enhanced and normal. Shadow and Storm refereed, their enhanced intelligence allowing them to make fair calls that both teams accepted. Oliver, Lily called from the sideline. Now 9, she had become the school's star student, her ability to temporarily enhance normal animals, making her invaluable in rescue operations. What is it? Oliver asked, jogging over. Remember the Genesis Protocol? The thing that made me special? Oliver nodded. It was the process that had given Lily her unique ability. I've been working with the scientists, the ethical ones, Lily continued. We think we can reverse engineer it, not to create more enhanced beings, but to help those who are enhanced connect better with normal animals. Imagine if every enhanced person could have what you have, the ability to connect with any creature. That's amazing, Oliver said, but then frowned. But also dangerous, in the wrong hands. That's why we need you, Lily said. You understand the balance better than anyone. Will you help? Oliver looked at Shadow and Storm, his constant companions. They had been with him for 3 years now, growing from dying puppies to magnificent adults. Through them, he had learned about loyalty, courage, and the deep connection between species. Yes, he said, but we do it right. Slowly, carefully, with respect for all involved. That evening, Oliver found his mother in the garden she had started behind their house. She was planting roses, yellow ones, like Grandma Rose had loved. Mom, he said, sitting beside her in the dirt, do you think Grandma Rose would be proud of what we've become? Sarah pulled him close, not caring about the dirt on his clothes. She would be amazed, her grandson, the boy who bridges worlds. But more than that, she'd be proud that you've stayed kind, stayed humble despite your gifts. I had good teachers, Oliver said, leaning against her. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and red. Shadow and Storm lay nearby, their eyes watchful but peaceful. Mom, Oliver said suddenly, I've been thinking about what happens when I grow up. Oh? And what have you been thinking? I don't want to be a superhero or a politician or even a scientist. I just want to help enhanced beings and normal humans understand each other. Maybe have a sanctuary like Margaret's, or teach like Blackwood does now. Sarah smiled. You're 8 years old. You have plenty of time to decide. I know, Oliver said, but some things you just know, you know? Like how I knew Shadow and Storm were meant to be ours that night in the cemetery. A howl echoed across the desert, not Shadow or Storm, but one of the wild enhanced coyotes that had made the area their home. They were protected here, free to be themselves without fear of Dominion or the Purification Church or any other group that would use or destroy them. Shadow and Storm responded with their own howls, and Oliver felt the network light up with communication. Enhanced beings checking in with each other, sharing the day's experiences, maintaining the bonds that made them a community. Time for dinner, David called from the house. As they walked inside, Oliver paused at the door, looking back at the desert, at the school in the distance, at the world that had changed so much in 3 years. Thank you, he whispered to the universe, to Walter's memory, to whatever force had brought Shadow and Storm to their doorstep that stormy night. The wind carried his words away, but through the network, every enhanced being within miles felt the gratitude, the love, the hope for a future where all beings could coexist in harmony. 5 more years passed. Oliver was now 13, a teenager dealing with normal adolescent challenges alongside his unique responsibilities. Shadow and Storm, despite being technically middle-aged in dog years, showed no signs of aging, Maria's prediction about their extended lifespan proving true. The world had largely adapted to enhanced beings. They worked as search and rescue teams, assisted in medical research, helped in agriculture. The fear that had once dominated had largely given way to acceptance and even appreciation. Oliver stood before the United Nations Youth Assembly, representing the enhanced community. He was taller now, his voice deeper, but his eyes still held that wisdom beyond his years. 5 years ago, he began, a 5-year-old boy found 2 dying puppies in a cemetery. That boy was me, and those puppies became Shadow and Storm. That night changed not just my life, but the world. He paused, looking at the assembly of young people from around the globe, many of them enhanced or bonded with enhanced beings. We've learned that enhancement isn't about superiority. It's about connection. It's about understanding that all life is valuable, that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. He talked about the challenges they still faced, black market enhancement, extremist groups on both sides, the ethical questions that arose as enhancement technology improved. But he also talked about hope, about the communities that had formed, about the lives saved by enhanced beings and their partners. My mother once asked me if I regretted finding Shadow and Storm, Oliver concluded. I told her no then, and I say no now. They didn't just save my life or give me abilities. They taught me that the greatest enhancement isn't physical or mental. It's the enhancement of our capacity to love, to understand, to connect across differences. The assembly erupted in applause. Oliver stepped down from the podium to where his family waited. Sarah and David, now in their 40s, smiled with pride. Lily stood beside them, now 18 and heading to university to study bioethics. Even Marcus Thorne was there, his wolf-human form accepted in most public spaces now, working as an advocate for enhanced rights. "Nice speech," Adrian said. He had been released from custody 2 years ago, his testimony having helped dismantle the last of Dominion's operations. He now ran a support group for people struggling with enhancement, whether forced or chosen. "Thanks," Oliver said. "How's the clinic?" Adrian smiled. "Good. We helped another 3 people find balance this month. Your technique of accepting rather than fighting the enhancement really works." Blackwood approached, now an old man but still spry. "Oliver, I have news. The Vatican wants to meet with you. They're considering an official position on enhanced beings." Oliver sighed. At 13, he sometimes felt the weight of being a spokesperson for an entire community. But then Shadow nudged his hand, and Storm leaned against his leg, reminding him he was never alone. "Tell them I'll meet with them," Oliver said. "But I'm bringing backup." He gestured to his enhanced companions and his family. "Wouldn't expect anything else," Blackwood said with a smile. That evening, in their hotel room overlooking New York City, Oliver sat with Shadow and Storm on the balcony. The city lights sparkled below, a mixture of normal and enhanced life coexisting in ways that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. "We did it, didn't we?" he said to his companions. "We really changed things." Shadow placed his massive head on Oliver's lap, while Storm kept watch, ever the guardian. Through their connection, Oliver felt their agreement, their pride, their unwavering loyalty. Sarah joined him on the balcony. "Penny, for your thoughts?" "Just thinking about that night in the cemetery. How scared we all were. How we had no idea what we were getting into." "Do you think Walter knew?" Sarah asked. "How important you would become?" Oliver was quiet for a moment, reaching out through the network, feeling the thousands of enhanced beings living their lives in freedom. "I think he hoped," Oliver said finally. "He saved Shadow and Storm's parents, hid the puppies, and hoped someone would find them who could make a difference." "And we did," Sarah said, pulling her son close. "We all did," Oliver corrected. "You, Dad, Margaret, Victor, even Blackwood and the Thorns. It took all of us." A news alert popped up on Oliver's phone. Another enhanced child had been found, this one in Brazil, bonded with a jaguar. The local community was frightened, unsure how to react. "Duty calls?" Sarah asked, seeing Oliver's expression. "Not duty," Oliver said, standing up. "Purpose." As he prepared to video call the Brazilian authorities to offer guidance and support, Oliver reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a scared 5-year-old in a cemetery to a 13-year-old spokesman for enhanced rights, it had been an incredible transformation. But at his core, he was still the same boy who had reached out to help 2 crying puppies, who had chosen compassion over fear. And as long as he held on to that, as long as Shadow and Storm were by his side, he knew he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The video call connected, and Oliver saw a frightened young girl clutching a jaguar cub, surrounded by concerned adults. He smiled reassuringly and began to speak in Portuguese, one of several languages he'd learned to better help the global enhanced community. "Hello," he said. "My name is Oliver. These are my friends Shadow and Storm. We're here to help." The girl's eyes widened with hope, and Oliver felt that familiar warmth in his chest, the feeling of connection, of purpose, of making a difference. 10 years had now passed since that night in the cemetery. Oliver, now 15, had grown into a confident young man. The world had transformed beyond recognition. Enhanced beings were now integrated into society at every level. There were enhanced police units, medical teams, even enhanced artists creating works that bridged the gap between human and animal consciousness. Oliver stood in the cemetery where it all began, but this time he wasn't alone. Hundreds of people had gathered for the dedication of the Walter Grimm Memorial Center for Enhanced Studies, built on the land adjacent to the cemetery. The old oak tree, now fully regrown, stood as a symbol of resilience and renewal. Today, Oliver addressed the crowd, we honor not just Walter Grimm, but all those who fought for a world where enhanced and normal could coexist. This center will be a place of learning, of research, but most importantly, of understanding. Shadow and Storm, now showing the first signs of gray in their muzzles but still strong and vital, stood beside him. They had been with him through everything: the battles with Dominion, the political struggles, the gradual acceptance by society. Maria Crow Feather, now ancient but still sharp, stepped forward. The spirits told me long ago that a bridge would come, someone to unite the divided worlds. Oliver has been that bridge, but he hasn't walked alone. She gestured to the crowd, enhanced and normal, young and old, from every corner of the globe. We all are the bridge now. The ribbon was cut, and people began exploring the center. There were labs for ethical enhancement research, classrooms for teaching control and balance, therapy rooms for those struggling with their enhanced nature, and a vast library documenting the history of human-animal connection throughout cultures and time. Oliver found himself in the memorial room, where photos of all those who had died in the struggle lined the walls. Walter Grimm's photo held a place of honor, but there were many others: enhanced beings killed by Dominion, humans who died protecting them, even some of Blackwood's former followers who had changed sides and paid the ultimate price. "It's beautiful," a voice said behind him. Oliver turned to find Adrian Thorne, now fully human and working as a counselor at the center. The years had been kind to him, the madness that once consumed him replaced by a quiet wisdom born from suffering and redemption. "They all deserve to be remembered," Oliver said. "Even my father?" Adrian asked, pointing to a small photo of Marcus Thorne in his human form from before the enhancement consumed him. "Especially your father. He made terrible choices, but in the end, he tried to make amends. That counts for something." Lily appeared in the doorway, now doctor. Lily Crow Feather, having earned her doctorate in bioethics at the remarkably young age of 20. "Oliver, there's someone here to see you." In the lobby stood a small family, parents with a young boy, maybe 4 years old. The boy was holding a tiny kitten that Oliver immediately recognized as enhanced. "Mr. Miller," the father said nervously. "Our son, he can talk to her. The kitten, I mean. Really talk, not just pretend. We don't know what to do." Oliver knelt to the boy's level, Shadow and Storm lying down to appear less intimidating. "What's your name?" "Tommy," the boy whispered. "And what's your kitten's name?" "Whisper, because she tells me secrets." Oliver smiled, remembering another scared child who had found enhanced animals and didn't understand what was happening. "Well, Tommy, you're very special. And so is Whisper. Would you like to learn more about your gift?" The boy nodded eagerly, and Oliver stood, addressing the parents. "The center has programs for young, enhanced bonded children. Tommy will be safe here, and he'll learn to understand and control his abilities." As the family was led away for orientation, Oliver felt a deep satisfaction. This was what it had all been for, creating a world where children like Tommy didn't have to be afraid, where their gifts were celebrated rather than feared or exploited. That evening, there was a celebration at the reservation. The original school had grown into a campus, with dormitories, research facilities, and training grounds. Enhanced beings and their human partners mingled freely, sharing food and stories. Oliver sat with his parents watching the sunset. David's hair was graying now, and Sarah had laugh lines around her eyes, but they looked content. 15 years old and you've already changed the world, David said. "What's left to accomplish?" Oliver laughed. "Finish high school? Learn to drive? Normal teenage things?" "Normal," Sarah mused. "I don't think that word applies to our family anymore." "Maybe not," Oliver agreed, "but that's okay. We've learned that normal is overrated." Victor approached, now in his 50s and serving as head of security for the center. "Oliver, we've received word from China. They've agreed to open their enhanced program to international oversight." "That's the last holdout," Lily said, joining them. "Every major nation is now part of the Enhanced Accords. It was a monumental achievement. The Enhanced Accords, drafted partly by Oliver when he was just 11, established rights and responsibilities for enhanced beings worldwide. It had taken 4 years of negotiation, but now it was universal law. "We should celebrate," someone suggested, but Oliver shook his head. "We should remember that this is just the beginning. Rights on paper don't always translate to rights in practice. We need to stay vigilant. As if to underscore his point, his phone buzzed with an alert. A group of enhanced animals had been found locked in a basement in Eastern Europe, apparently being used for illegal fighting rings. "I'll coordinate the rescue," Victor said immediately. "I'll prepare medical facilities," Lily added. "And I'll go with the team," Oliver said, standing up. "Oliver, you don't have to respond to every crisis personally," Sarah said gently. "No, but this one involves children. Enhanced children forced to make their animals fight." His expression hardened. "That ends tonight?" Shadow and Storm were already at his side, ready for whatever came next. Even after all these years, they were always ready to follow him into danger if it meant protecting the innocent. The rescue operation was swift and successful. By dawn, 12 enhanced children and their animals were safe at the center, receiving medical care and psychological support. Oliver sat with them, using his connection to calm the traumatized animals while counselors worked with the children. One little girl, no more than 6, clung to a battle-scarred enhanced dog. "They made Rex fight," she whispered to Oliver. "He didn't want to, but they hurt me if he didn't." Oliver placed his hand on Rex's head, feeling the dog's pain and confusion through the network. "It's over now," he promised both of them. "No one will make you fight again." As the sun rose over the center, Oliver realized that despite all their progress, there would always be those who sought to exploit enhanced beings. But there would also always be those willing to fight for them, to protect them, to ensure their freedom. "You look tired," Lily observed, finding him on the center's roof garden. "I am," Oliver admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if we'll ever truly win this fight." "We already have," Lily said. "Every enhanced being living free, every child who doesn't have to hide their gift, every person who sees enhancement as a blessing rather than a curse, those are all victories." Shadow and Storm joined them on the roof, the 4 of them looking out over a world that had changed so dramatically in just 10 years. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't found them that night?" Lily asked. Oliver scratched Shadow behind the ears, feeling the deep contentment radiating from his old friend. "I try not to. But I think they would have found someone else, or someone else would have found them. The connection between enhanced beings and humanity was meant to happen. We were just the catalyst." "A pretty amazing catalyst," Lily said with a smile. As they stood there, Oliver felt the network pulse with life. Thousands of enhanced beings around the world, living, working, playing, existing in harmony with humanity. It wasn't perfect, might never be perfect, but it was so much better than anyone had imagined possible. His phone rang. Another crisis, another challenge, another opportunity to make a difference. But for just a moment, Oliver ignored it, choosing instead to stand with his friends, his partners, his family of choice, and appreciate how far they'd all come. The phone rang again, and this time he answered it. There was work to do, always work to do. But he wasn't alone. He had Shadow and Storm, he had his family, he had Lily and all the others who had joined their cause. Together, they would continue to build a world where enhanced and normal weren't separate categories, but part of the same beautiful, complex tapestry of life. As Oliver headed back inside to address the new crisis, Shadow and Storm flanking him as always, he passed the memorial to Walter Grimm. He paused as he always did, and offered a silent thanks to the man who had started it all by saving 2 enhanced dogs and hiding their puppies for someone special to find. "We're doing our best, Walter," he whispered. "I hope we're making you proud." The wind rustled through the memorial garden, and for just a moment, Oliver could swear he heard an old man's voice saying, "You already have, son. You already have." 20 years had now passed since that fateful night in the cemetery. Oliver, now 25, stood before the Global Council as the first director of Enhanced Affairs, a position created specifically for him. Shadow and Storm, though elderly by normal dog standards, remained by his side, their enhancement keeping them vital and alert. "Ladies and gentlemen," Oliver addressed the assembly, "today marks a historic moment. The last underground enhancement facility has been closed, its victims freed and receiving care. For the first time in history, we can say that no enhanced being is held against their will anywhere in the world." The applause was thunderous. It had taken 2 decades of work, but they had finally achieved what once seemed impossible. After the session, Oliver walked through the streets of Geneva, where the Global Council met. Enhanced beings were everywhere. A woman with an enhanced hawk delivering mail, a man with an enhanced dolphin working at the aquarium, children playing with enhanced cats and dogs in the park. "We really did it," Sarah said, joining him. She was in her 50s now, but still vibrant, having become a global advocate for enhanced human family rights. "We all did it," Oliver corrected, as he always did. David appeared with ice cream cones for all of them, including special frozen treats for Shadow and Storm. "Remember when we thought the biggest challenge would be house training 2 puppies? They all laughed, the sound mixing with the peaceful noise of a world that had learned to embrace rather than fear difference. As they sat in the park, watching the sun set over a transformed world, Oliver felt a deep sense of completion. The scared 5-year-old who had found 2 crying puppies in a cemetery had grown into a man who had helped reshape civilization itself. Shadow rested his gray muzzle on Oliver's knee, and Storm leaned against his other side. Through their connection, Oliver felt their contentment, their pride, their endless love. They had been together for 20 years, and their bond had only grown stronger. "What's next?" Lily asked, joining them. She now ran the largest enhanced research facility in the world, working on ways to help enhanced and normal beings better understand each other. Oliver smiled. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. That's the one thing that's never changed." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Oliver thought about all the enhanced beings around the world, all the connections that had been made, all the lives that had been saved and transformed. It had started with 2 puppies in a cemetery, but it had become so much more, and it wasn't ending. It was just beginning. The next generation of enhanced bonded children was already showing abilities beyond what anyone had imagined. The future held challenges, certainly, but also incredible possibilities. Oliver stood, Shadow and Storm rising with him, as they always did. "Come on, boys. We've got work to do." As they walked into the future together, Oliver knew that whatever came next, they would face it as they always had, with courage, with compassion, and with the unbreakable bond between human and enhanced that had changed the world forever. The little boy who had found 2 German Shepherd puppies crying in a sack had become a man who helped build a new world, and those puppies, Shadow and Storm, had become legends in their own right, symbols of loyalty, courage, and the transformative power of love across species. Their story would be told for generations, inspiring others to reach across difference, to choose connection over fear, to believe that even the smallest act of kindness, like saving 2 puppies from a cemetery, could change the world. And in Willowbrook Cemetery, where it all began, the memorial oak tree stood tall and strong, its branches reaching toward the sky like a bridge between earth and heaven, between human and animal, between what was and what could be. On quiet nights, locals said, you could still hear the ghost of Walter Grimm whispering his thanks to the wind, grateful that his faith in humanity's capacity for love had been proven right. The story of Oliver, Shadow, and Storm had become more than just their story. It had become the story of a world transformed by the simple act of choosing love over fear, connection over control, and unity over division. And it all started with a 5-year-old boy who heard puppies crying and chose to help. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to hear more incredible stories of connection, courage, and the bonds that unite us all. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever experienced a special connection with an animal that changed your life.